Chapter 641. Bestowing Death to White Robe _5. Conscription. Zhong Wuxin said anxiously. In recent years, the situation in Deqi hasn't been very good. This time, with 400,000 troops setting out and nearly 1 million civilians supporting logistics, we've almost reached the limit of conscription. If we continue to levy, wouldn't it easily lead to rebellion in the rear? Just be at ease about levying the grain. Han Xiang said confidently. How much grain can be levied to the limit in each region? I've written it very clearly. As long as those civilians don't starve to death, they won't cause any trouble. Zhong Wuxin looked through the numbers in the booklet, feeling nothing short of horrified. The military immortal invited by their Deqi had actually calculated to this extent. It was clearly written how much food a grown person needed per day to keep from starving. They just needed to levy according to this figure, and short-term rebellion would not occur, and by the time those people were at their limits, the war would have already calmed down. I will send the letter back to Deqi right now. Zhong Wuxin took the order and left. Not long after his departure, a cultivator came in with a sealed letter. Han, Shang Country Court sent a letter wanting to negotiate with our Loya Valley. Oh, Han Xiang took the letter. The situation between the two armies changed again. The entire army of Dashing retreated to Guandu. After West Qi crossed the river, they set up camp right in the region of Guandu. The deployment arrangement of several 100,000 troops took a tremendous amount of time. Back and forth, almost 2 months had passed unnoticed. Chun Sansi had also reached a minor bottleneck again. Under relentless cultivation, day and night undistinguishable, his eyes gleamed with spirit light, shining brightly in the darkness. The fourth of the upper 8 scenic gods. Name Ling Jianxing, styled as Dao Tong. Exactly 3 inches and 5 feet high, dressed in blue. Cultivation technique. Dragon scripture. Entry level. Progress. 48 out of 100. Capital city. Zhongjua Hall. Report. Chun Sansi has retreated 800 miles. What did you say? King Jin, Chao Huan, rushed forward and snatched the battle report. Didn't the Ministry of War just issue a military order demanding that he must decide the outcome at Cloud Top Prefecture, trying every possible means to recover Mang Mountain? How could he retreat instead of advancing? This is terrible. Yan Maoxing pointed to the sand table. After Guandu, retreating further would mean abandoning the entire Jiazhou, and once Jiazhou is lost, the Great Shang dynasty will lose the whole western part. We can't retreat any further. What is Chun Sansi doing? Do not panic. Minister of War, Ming Qingfeng, leaned over the map, calmly stating. The fortresses around Guandu support each other and are extremely sturdy. After retreating here, the pressure to defend will be much less, and there should be no further retreats in the short term. However, attempting to counterattack will be tough as climbing to heaven. That's exactly the problem. The Minister of Revenue stamped his foot and said, with Mr. Chun doing this, isn't it clear he's preparing for a war of attrition? How much supplies can they possibly provide them? At the same time, Longevity Palace. Huang Hong, holding the battle report, finished reporting to the Emperor. Behind the curtain, after a long silence, it was the Chief Minister Yan Liang who finally broke the silence. Then pass another military order. Guandu. Supervisor. Military order from the capital city. Chun Sansi, who was seated cross-legged, did not reach for it, and asked, is the capital city urging me to deploy troops? Exactly. Xia Tsong reported truthfully. The consumption of food and forage is too great. The Ministry of War has ordered that we must find a breakthrough within 10 days. Otherwise, the supervisor will be held accountable. Tell the capital city that the opportunity has not yet arrived. Chun Sansi said. In the blink of an eye, another month passed, and the cold December brought heavy snow to most areas of the Central Plains. Jiazhou also fell into a tranquility. Zhongjua Hall. Report. Jiazhou is still at a deadlock. In the past 2 months, there have been only small skirmishes and minor encounters between our cavalry and the enemies, with no significant progress thereafter. What is to be done? Ming Qingfeng, hands clasped behind his back, paced anxiously back and forth in the hall. He turned to the red-robed official beside him. Mr. Tian, how long can our food and forage last? At most 5 months. Minister of Revenue Tian Guang said. Now, the large armies on the eastern and southern fronts also need supplies. It's all interlinked. After 5 months, it will no longer be possible to divert any extra food and forage to the west. Mr. Chun will have no choice but to completely withdraw from Jiazhou. It would mean the total loss of the western 6 states. We can't delay any longer. Ming Qingfeng pointed at the official responsible for drafting military orders and said, urge them again. Urge them again. Longevity Palace. Chu Yuanxiang, exuding the smell of alcohol, clutching a wine gourd, was denied entry. In a rage, he shouted towards the inside, Emperor, I heard that your food and forage are running out. Do you understand the consequences after the loss of Mang Mountain? Wait until the opportune moment arrives, after the ancestor vein is revived. The seals of heaven and earth will begin to crumble from within. By then, those holding the ancestor vein in Luoya Valley will be able to establish a transmission array to reach the eastern continent. West Qi supporting Luoya Valley to seize the ancestor vein means Spirit Silence Cave will assist them in annihilating you, aiding West Qi to unify the world. Your great Shang dynasty is doomed. And forget about getting any foundation establishment pills. Worthless. All worthless. Compared to the chaos outside, it was serene within the hall. Emperor Longqing was not present. A round table. The old chief minister Yan Liang and a cultivator sat facing each other. The cultivator from Luoya Valley, Zhu Gui, spoke up. Isn't it a bit insincere for your emperor not to come out and speak with me himself? His Majesty is in closed-door healing. Yan Liang signaled the eunuch Huang Hong to pour tea for the cultivator. His hoarse voice slowly began. His Majesty has appointed me as the envoy to negotiate with your sect. Chapter 642. Bestowing death to White Robe _6. You, Zhu Gui said half-doubtingly. Will your words hold true? Naturally. Yan Liang lifted his sleeve. The negotiation place will be within the Longevity Palace where His Majesty resides, so any negotiated result would be equivalent to His Majesty's personal agreement, and there would be no reneging. Zhu Gui guessed the other's thoughts, and immediately a scornful sneer hooked the corner of his mouth. Old man, you're quite pitiable. A man of your age, a mortal, still has to come out and bear the brunt for your emperor. I heard about your 10 days of Yunzhou. It must have been you who negotiated with the barbarians and the ancient demon clan, wasn't it? TSK Tisk. Should there be any accidents in the future, you'll be the first to die. I am a servant of His Majesty, and as a servant, it is my duty to share my lord's concerns. Yan Liang changed the subject. Let's discuss serious matters, Immortal Master. As long as your sect provides one foundation establishment pill, my great Shang dynasty will take the initiative to withdraw its troops and hand over the western 3 states including Mang Mountain. You should have done this earlier. Zhu Gui said coldly. Now you think of negotiating when you realize you can't win. Isn't it a bit too late? Even if we don't agree, in a few months when your provisions are exhausted, you'll still have to withdraw from Jiazhou. Why should we waste a foundation establishment pill? Even for us in Luoya Valley, the quantity of foundation establishment pills is limited. Immortal Master Zhu is not seeing the full picture. Yan Liang shook his head slightly. While it's true that the western defeat is set, but what if we cooperate with Nansu? Upon hearing this, Zhu Gui's expression turned stern. Yan Liang continued, Immortal Master should be aware that not only does your Luoya Valley covet the ancestor vein, but Spirit Silence Cave, behind Nansu also has its eyes on this juicy prize. If push comes to shove, our great Shang dynasty could also let Nansu join forces with us. The great Shang dynasty will certainly suffer great losses, but then the situation will become even more chaotic. The difficulty for your sect to firmly occupy the spirit vein will not decrease, but likely increase, right? Zhu Gui fell silent. Clearly, this was true. So say. Yan Liang's aged voice seized the other's vital point. So say, is it worth using one foundation establishment pill to secure the ancestor vein, or would you rather be aggressively unyielding and result in mutual destruction, with the benefits in the end all going to Spirit Silence Cave? Your sect should know how to weigh the options, right? Ruthless enough. Zhu Gui pondered for a moment, then took out a sound transmission talisman and conveyed everything to Han Xiang, who was in full charge of this matter. Not long after, he agreed. Brother Han has said no problem. Using one foundation establishment pill in exchange for the ancestor vein will take that deal. However, there's another condition. What other condition? Yan Liang asked in a deep voice. Please speak, Immortal Master. I want the lives of 150,000 people. Zhu Gui's statement was shocking. Upon hearing these words, the aged and frail Yan Liang's body stiffened. His teacup, which he could hardly stabilize, shattered, crack on the floor, and he inquired, which 150,000? Naturally, it's the 150,000 army at Guandu. Zhu Gui said indifferently. As Mr. Yan has said, if you were to cooperate with Spirit Silence Cave behind Nansu, that would be another trouble. Therefore, Brother Han said, we simply have to make you lose the qualification to cooperate with Nansu completely. 150,000 lives for one foundation establishment pill actually seems like a good deal. After all, your old emperor has a decent talent. Maybe he'll form a golden core in the future? By then, he could be considered a great power. Besides, you've done such things before. Millions died during the 10 days of Yunzhou. The extra 150,000 doesn't make much difference. These are the troops of my great Shang dynasty. Yan Liang's emotions finally fluctuated, as he suddenly stood up and, due to his extreme weakness, nearly collapsed backwards if not for the eunuch Huang Hong, who promptly stepped forward to support him. After a long gasp, he was just able to start speaking again, panting. And those are 150,000 troops, not unarmed civilians. You can't just kill them as you please. If mishandled and they are forced into revolt, wouldn't that cause even more trouble? It's simple. Brother Han has already thought of an excellent plan for you. Zhu Gui requested a map. Wu County, Donan, and Guangyuan, these 3 prefecture cities, are located behind Guandu. Just need to capture them to completely cut off the retreat path for the 150,000 army at Guandu. Not long after, when their provisions are exhausted and they have nowhere to retreat, the 150,000 army will naturally be doomed. These 3 prefecture cities are in the heartland of the central plains of the Great Shang. Without foreign enemies, who will take them over? Yan Liang said, coughing. Are we supposed to send our own people to fight our own people? That's also simple. Zhu Gui said. When the time comes, we'll send some fellow sect brothers to pretend to be your rebels who defect to West Qi. Wouldn't that be seamless? It also won't damage the reputation of your court. That's all I have to say. If you don't agree, then let's fight to the end. What the outcome of continuing the fight will be, you should be clear. Whether you agree or not, make a quick decision. Yan Liang gasped for breath in fits and starts. He cast his gaze deep into the Longevity Palace, as if waiting for something. Dong! It wasn't until a clear chime from a bell rang out. That bell's toll determined the fate of the 150,000 soldiers at the front line, including that white robe. Death to the white robe, along with the 150,000 soldiers. Yan Liang closed his eyes. Agreed. Chapter 643. How can one remain in low spirits under others for long? Boom! It was the dead of night. Thunder continued to clamor among the mountains and fields. Frightened birds cried out, flapping their wings and scattering in panic. Spirit light shone brightly. The silver dragon roamed. Under the refinement of spiritual energy, a shrine quietly opened on the neck of Chun Sansi, bringing Jing Shin back to life. Neck marrow god, named Ling Mogai, styled Dao Zhou, 5 inches tall, dressed in white. Cultivation technique. Dragon scripture. Entry level. Progress. 60 out of 100. The progress had reached 60%. Chun Sansi then took out the black snake bow, shooting down several birds that were chaotically darting through the air. Skill archery. Perfection. 2nd tier breakthrough. Progress. 1558/2000. It wouldn't be long before the archery could break through again. Cultivation technique. Swallowing fire technique. Qi refining 2nd level. Progress. 250/500. Aided by elixir pills, the swallowing fire technique was also steadily improving. This battle had ensued. Unnoticeably, it had been nearly half a year, and there was still no sign of it ending. After finishing his cultivation, Chun Sansi also casually hunted some game, but sadly the mountain was not large and there wasn't much game. Finally, he only found 2 wild boars to add to the meal, which would somewhat enrich the soldiers' diet. Back at the camp, he happened to meet Chu Shixiang carrying a sack of heads, which he dumped onto the ground with a thud. 50 li outside the city. While scouting, we encountered a troop of cavalry. We killed 20 of the enemy soldiers. 2 of our men died. Since retreating to Guandu, both sides had been stuck in such a situation. Both sides would only engage in small-scale cavalry skirmishes, never facing head-on. Everyone in the court believed that with sufficient supplies, continuing this trend could last 3 to 5 years before a victor could be discerned. Sir, the Ministry of War has urged us again. In the last month, nearly every day there's been a military order to deploy troops. Ignore it. Eventually, Chun Sansi simply shut his doors and refused to see anyone. The military orders urging him to deploy piled up like a mountain. After being turned away several times by Chun Sansi, the court eunuch from the capital city, Mr. Guofengjie, directly took the gold medal from the capital and gathered Tong Xiaochu, Teng Lu, as well as the mid to high-ranking officers of the supervisory army. The white robe lacked strategy, wasting opportunities. Supervisor eunuch Guofengjie, holding up the gold medal, scanned the many generals. The Ministry of War has repeatedly ordered him to deploy troops, yet he remains idle. To put it mildly, it's cowardice. To be more severe, it's defiance of orders. Do you all intend to disregard the military orders along with the white robe? Could it be that you want to rebel with him? Mr. Guo, such words should not be spoken. Tong Xiaochu immediately panicked. My Tong family has been loyal for 10 generations. How could we possibly harbor disloyalty towards the court? I was raised by His Majesty himself. Having once been a death guard, Tong Lu solemnly declared. Alive I am a man of dashing, and dead I shall be a ghost of dashing. How could I possibly be afraid to fight? Mr. Guo, how dare you insult me? The rest of the many mid to high-level generals echoed in unison. We who receive the emperor's favor, how could we possess disloyal hearts? Since that's the case, the supervisor eunuch Guofengjie, dragging his words, said, then why do you disobey orders and delay sending out troops? This, Tong Xiaochu explained. These were orders from Chen Dushi. Chun Sansi is incompetent. Guofengjie coldly retorted. Are you saying that without him, you want fight? Truth be told, the military department is already preparing to appoint a new commander. A replacement? Teng Lu asked. Who is the replacement? Humph. Supervisor Guofengjie answered. If there is no progress in Jiazhou, then the court might have no choice but to call in General Jiang Yunbua from the capital city, as well as Duke Zhao's old Mu. As for Chun Sansi, since he is incapable of attacking, He must be relieved of his commander position, and if he cannot redeem his failures before the end of the battle, facing accountability won't be out of the question, and even stripping him of his titles isn't impossible. Mr. Gua? Tong Xiaochu asked. Do you mean? Yes. Chun Sansi is no longer the commander, you no longer have to follow his orders. Guo Fengjie firmly placed down the gold medal. Effective immediately. I order you to quickly draft a military strategy for deploying troops, and as soon as General Liu and others arrive, initiate the battle immediately. Understood. Tong Xiaochu accepted the command. The others gradually dispersed. Tong Xiaochu sat in front of the war map, his face filled with worry, pondering how to break the deadlock. General Tong. Tung Lu sighed. Is General Chun really going to be dismissed like this? Poor command necessitates replacement. Tong Xiaochu helplessly said. You and I were also dismissed. As much as that is true, however. Tung Lu spread his hands. Even Chen Dusher couldn't find a strategy to defeat the enemy. What chance do you and I have? Honestly, I think the court might be too hasty this time. If Chen Dusher is to wait, why not just wait a little longer? There might be a turning point coming. Brother Tang, the court has its own urgent circumstances. It really can't afford to keep waiting. Tong Xiaochu sighed. General Chun might be trying to preserve his own reputation of being undefeated. That's why he dares not gamble by sending out troops. Central Army tent. Sir, it's bad, sir. Zhao Kong barged into the tent, and after ensuring no one else was around, spoke in a suppressed tone. That eunuch last night gathered all the military commanders, big and small. I heard he's planning to remove your command in a few days and assign others to lead. Really? Crouching on the ground eating dry food, Zhu Tong immediately stood up cursing. If Chun Sansi isn't adequate, who in this world is? Changing him is pointless. A bunch of useless idiots. Isn't it though? Xiong Chuan, who had been dozing off holding his axe, perked up hearing this. Who are they planning to replace him with? Damn it, if they bring in some fool who leads us to death, what do we do then? Sir, let's flee, head back to Liangzhou, to hell with it. Whoever wants to fight this war, let them fight it. Chapter 644. How can one remain in low spirits under others for long? _2. Standing guard at the entrance of the Central Army tent, Lu Jingkue, upon hearing these words, poked his head in and said, That Xiong guy is spouting nonsense. It's one thing to desert in the face of battle, but to do so with organized forces is not desertion. It's mutiny. Is there such a good thing? Zhu Tong said cheerfully. Isn't that just perfect? Enough. Don't always speak so carelessly. Zhao Kong scolded. Be careful. Chu Shixiang and his group will hear. Those people are the type to write petitions and complain to the court. Continuing with the matter at hand, he said, Mr. Chun, if they really change commanders, what do we do? Whoever comes, we have to hold out. Chen Sansi calmly stated. This battle was not originally fought for the court. Now, the world is changing. From a struggle over lands between various nations, it has become a battle for the ancestor vein, with many cultivation sects standing behind. If the ancestor vein is lost and the Luoya Valley from behind West Qi secures a footing on the eastern continent, the Shangyun sect will immediately abandon dashing. After that, losing the support of the immortal master, with the kingdoms of Qing, Su, and Qi attacking in unison, the world will plunge into chaos, and who knows how many will die. Only by holding the ancestor vein in hand will we have the qualifications to negotiate with the sects, otherwise, we will just become a bargaining chip on someone else's negotiation table. How's the investigation on the intelligence I had you gather? Chen Sansi inquired. All clear. Zhao Kong produced a secret letter from his bosom. Our provisions are hard to sustain while West Qi is similarly not having an easy time. Their supplies are almost depleted too. They have forcibly conscripted more within their borders and are transporting them here, presumably their last shipment of provisions. But they can hold out much longer than us. In the end, war comes down to logistics. Whoever has a robust logistical operation has a better chance of winning. Likewise, if one can disrupt the enemy's logistics, that too is a path to victory. Keep scouting and keep reporting. Chun Sansi said, Our next focus will be on the enemy's provisions. Yes. Shichi Camp. Immortal Master. Zhong Wuxin reported. The arrangement for the conscription of provisions is almost done. Enough to support us for another 9 months. While the Shang people have only 4 to 5 months left before they run out of provisions. The batch you've arranged is key to our victory. Once it reaches Jiazhou, where would be the best place to store it? Wu City. Han Xiang decided as he placed a piece on the board. A good location. Zhong Wuxin mused. This place has well-established official roads, which will reduce transit losses, and it's not far from our main force, so we can provide support in case of any emergencies. With the Immortal Master station there, we can be assured of security. Having clarified everything, he breathed a long sigh of relief. Chen Sansi is a smart man. He ought to withdraw his troops before they run out of provisions. Once they pull out of Jiazhou, it would be much harder for them to come back. We would have established our position and gained control of Mang Mountain. So there's no need to keep fighting. No. Han Xiang interjected. We can't let a single one escape. They won't have the chance. Zhong Wuxin was puzzled. Suddenly, Han Xiang, with his slender fingers, replaced all of Daxing's black pieces on the chessboard with West Qi's white pieces, turning the stalemate into a scenario where Daxing's black pieces were besieged by West Qi's white pieces. Hiss! Zhong Wuxin, unaware that the Emperor Daxing had already reached an agreement with the Luoya Valley, said, "How can their own black pieces turn into our white pieces, turning against their own men?" Indeed, Han Xiang's tone was indifferent yet carried a tinge of pity. The player opposite never imagined that, after working so hard to help the owner of the chessboard, the owner himself didn't want to win. Clack! The piece was set down. Each move tightened the noose, leading to an inescapable checkmate. Chun Sansi, the supervisor eunuch Guofangjie, arrived at the Central Army tent unceremoniously and said, "This is the last time I ask you, can you send out troops within 3 days? The timing is not yet right. A rash move cannot be made." Chun Sansi still gave the same reply. "Since that's the case, Mr. Chun, please receive your order." Right then, Guofangjie produced a new military order. Champion Marquis Chun Sansi has shown incompetence in command, causing delays in military opportunity, now removed from his position as commander. Appointed as the Western Expeditionary General, to lead the Hongzhe camp to assist the new commander Mu Fengchun, and to follow all orders unconditionally.
Mu Fengchun.
Upon hearing this name, Xia Tsong and others rummaged through their memories. They only remembered that Mu Fengchun had previously partnered with Sun Xiangzong and was considered the top strategist under Supervisor Sun, but they'd had a falling out for unknown reasons and parted ways discontentedly. Afterward, Mu Fengchun also led various troops with barely any defeats, but he had retired from court affairs early on. Now, unexpectedly, he'd been asked to return. After the announcement was completed, a minor eunuch approached with a tray in front of the man in the white robe. "Mr. Chun, what are you waiting for?" Guofangjie raised his eyebrows and said, "Please return the Great Seal. The Great Seal is on the table. Take it if you wish." Chun Sansi replied calmly, "But my words remain the same no matter who comes. Now is not the time to send out troops. Acting hastily will only lead to greater risks." "Oh, my word." Guofangjie clucked his tongue and said, "Mr. Chun, I still say the same. The court has its difficulties and cannot delay any longer, and Jiazhou absolutely cannot be lost. Anyway, the Ministry of War is lenient and for the time being will not pursue Mr. Chen's responsibilities. Mr. Chun, you should still try to perform well from here on." He signaled with his eyes. The minor eunuch next to him was about to take the commander's seal. "Report. Disaster, disaster." Just at that moment, an assistant general responsible for the transport of provisions in the Central Army stumbled in, gasping for air as he said, "Rebellion. There's a rebellion in the rear." Chapter 645. How can one remain in low spirits under others for long? _3. Take your time. Tong Xiaochu stepped forward and asked, "Where is the rebellion this time, and how many troops are involved?" In recent months, they had encountered too many similar incidents, but none had caused much of a stir, so the news didn't agitate them much. However, Chun Sansi's expression became noticeably solemn. He remembered that this assistant general was in charge of a supply line not within Jiazhou but on the border of Qinzhou, outside Jiazhou, between two states separated by the Heavenly Mountains, a strategic gateway to the Central Plains. "It's not Jiazhou." The assistant general had a look of panic. "It's Qinzhou, Wu County on the border of Qinzhou, along with Dounan and Guangyuan in the 3 prefectures has rebelled. When I was escorting the supplies, we were attacked, and out of 500 brothers, only a little over 20 survived." "What did you say?" Guofangjie said incredulously. We just passed through Dounan not long ago. The commanding officer there, Zhang Yuru, is a hereditary earl. How could they rebel?" Upon hearing this, Tong Xiaochu shuddered and hurriedly grabbed a map to confirm the positions of the 3 prefectures, then felt a chill in his heart. The 3 prefectures were located at the exit of the Heavenly Mountains, strategically situated to support each other. Their joint rebellion would mean that they were wedged between the attacking forces of the West Qi army. They would completely trap their 150,000-strong army within Jiazhou, and when the supplies ran out it would mean the total destruction of their forces. How could this be? How could this happen? Tong Xiaochu grabbed the assistant general by the collar and demanded, "Did you clarify things? Did you negotiate?" The commanders of these prefectures are the trust of the court, different from the traitorous subjects within Jiazhou. Moreover, the battle is not over yet. Even if they harbored disloyal intentions, they shouldn't have revealed them now. "I really don't know." The assistant general's face was grimy, covered in a mix of blood and dust. "I only know that the attackers included an immortal master from West Qi," he stammered, guessing. Could it be that the immortal master promised to teach them immortal laws, or gave them immortal pills? The troops of the 3 prefectures aren't many, but they are easy to defend and hard to attack. If they just hold their position, we can't get through quickly. If we launch a full assault, the West Qi army at our rear won't just stand by. We are going to die at Guandu. Upon understanding the situation, Tong Xiaochu's face turned ashen. "Mr. Gua," Tong Lu spoke. "What about the troops of Old Mu and General Jiang Ngwa? Have them subdue the 3 prefectures directly. Old Mu and General Jiang are just here to take charge. They rushed all the way here without bringing troops. Guofengjie became directionless. The central army tent was in chaos as many generals felt helpless. In the end, they could only look unanimously at the man in the white robe. Chen Dusher, Tong Xiaochu said anxiously. What should we do next? Yes, supervisor. Tong Lu followed up. The lives of 150,000 brothers are at stake. Damn it. Wang Ji cursed unreservedly. Weren't you just itching to strip someone of his command? How can you change your face faster than flipping a book? Tong Xiaochu and others felt awkward. The court is pressuring us, we have to comply, don't we? Not to speak of changing commands. If the court orders me to commit suicide, as a servant, I must comply. What was before is different from now, Guofengjie said with a bitter smile. If Old Mu and General Jiang managed to make it to Guandu, they would be the commanders, but now they are blocked behind the 3 prefectures, so naturally, Supervisor Chen must take charge. Supervisor. Come on. Give us some direction. Tong Xiaochu and others felt overwhelmed, only now realizing how difficult it was to maintain a stable deadlock. Then, upon the commander's seat, the man in the white robe shifted his gaze from the map. His voice steady as a mountain, showing no panic, methodically ordered. Guofengjie, write immediately to ask the capital city to dispatch the imperial army. It is definitely too late in terms of time, but at least it could exert pressure on the 3 prefectures. Also, check with Prince Zhan Nan if he can spare any troops. All right. I'll start writing immediately. Guofengjie began writing the letter on the spot. Wang Jun, you go find out why these commanders betrayed. What conditions did Luoya Valley offer them, and what your Shengyun sect follows up with. No problem. Wang Jun nodded. For mortals, it was just cultivation techniques and valueless elixir pills. Such offerings were not beyond their means to provide, even if better terms were required for the sake of the sect's ancestor vein. And the supplies? Chun Sansi looked at the assistant general. You were attacked. How long can the current supplies in Jiazhou last? 5 months. The assistant general swallowed before saying, right before the 3 prefectures rebelled, the last batch of supplies had mostly been transported into Jiazhou, so in terms of supply, there wasn't a significant impact from the rebellion. Upon hearing this, Tong Xiaochu and others sighed in relief. As long as the supplies weren't affected, it meant they still had a chance to catch their breath and weren't immediately doomed. But contrary to their relief, upon hearing the news, Chun Sansi's eyes deepened. He asked, you mean, you had just managed to get the supplies in, then the rebellion started in the rear 3 prefectures? Yes, the assistant general said with having narrowly escaped disaster. Thankfully my journey was not delayed, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. It's a stroke of great luck amidst misfortune. Luck? Chun Sansi nodded. Whether it was fortune or by design. For the 3 prefectures, the fastest way to effect a rebellion was before the supplies reached their destination. Chapter 646. How can one remain in low spirits under others for long? _4. As long as the food and fodder are destroyed, Guandu will collapse within a month. But waiting until the food supplies have entered the territory before rebelling is equivalent to giving them an extra 5 months. Send the order down. Chun Sansi issued the 3rd military command. All persons within the accounts must not divulge news of the 3 prefectures' rebellion. Those who violate this order will be treated as spies of the enemy army, beheaded and shown publicly. Then their entire families will be implicated. And what then? Tong Xiaochu asked. Then, we continue to wait for an opportunity to arise. Chun Sansi reassured everyone. The food and fodder are unharmed. The 3 prefectures can only defend and cannot possibly send troops to attack, which means our situation remains the same as before, so do not panic. Actually, the difference lies in, before the rebellion of the 3 prefectures, within 5 months, if they cannot defeat the enemy, they can still retreat from Guandu and save their lives. But after the rebellion of the 3 prefectures, if they cannot defeat the enemy, there's only a dead end. Nobody can escape. The atmosphere was somewhat heavy. The generals did as they were instructed, each going to carry out his duties. Chun Sansi gazed at the map, always reminiscent of the events that unfolded 4 years ago in Yunzhou Payang. The supposedly strong Yunzhou Great Wall broke as easily as paper, and Ding Prefecture surrendered after opening its gates. The commander of Hong Kong Prefecture was killed. What followed thereafter was the 10 days in Yunzhou, the slaughtering of millions. And the current scene, how familiar, how similar it was. Only, the ones trapped had changed from 1 million citizens to 150,000 troops. What's the matter? Wang Ji interjected. You suspect there's a problem? Chun Sansi agreed tacitly. There being a problem is exactly right. Wang Ji angrily said, I know Jiang Yuru, and we have some connections. That man is incredibly stubborn. Originally he couldn't make it in the court, even though he was an earl. He was forced to leave the capital city and was assigned to guard a small city in the Central Plains region. A person like him, even if he dies, I wouldn't believe he would betray his country. Of course, it's also possible that his family was under the control of the West Qi cultivators, leaving him no choice but to agree. Whether it involves the court or not, it's hard to say. But even if it's indeed the work of that person in the capital city, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. That old bastard would do anything for his own interests. I still haven't forgotten the death of my junior apprentice brother. Chun Sanxi's pupils were deep, his expression unreadable. All these were still guesses between him and Wang Ji, without definitive evidence. It could also be that the rebellion of the three prefectures was merely a coincidence. After all, the allure of being a cultivator is great for ordinary people. Sixth senior brother, he began. Write a letter to our fourth senior brother in the capital city. See if he can find any clues. Don't forget, inside the Genie Guard, there are people from Governor Mansion, and there are plenty of undercover agents in the capital city. Initially in Piyang County, it was Han Cheng from the Genie Guard who leaked the news. If evidence can really be found, Chun Sanxi should start with the poisoned wine and settle the accounts with Chao Kai. Capital city, Zhongjua Hall. The three prefectures have rebelled. 150,000 troops are trapped in Guandu. What did you say? King Jin Chao Huan nearly fainted. The order messenger recounted the details one by one. How could the three prefectures rebel? The commanders of the Central Plains gates are all meticulously chosen. Yan Maoxing even doubted he had heard wrong. Even if West Qi has immortal masters, our great Qing dynasty has them too. The food. Minister of Revenue Tian Guang stumped his foot. Where's my food? Upon learning that the food and fodder were unharmed, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. The food is still there, we can still hold on. King Jin Chao Huan analyzed. Quick, dispatch troops from the capital city now. Spare no expense to quickly quell the rebellion of the three prefectures. It's too late. Minister of War Ming Qingfeng despondently shook his head. Sending troops now, not to mention the long distance, just the provisioning of food and fodder alone won't make it. We can only put up a semblance of dispatching troops to pressure the rebel commanders of the three prefectures. So you're saying, everything is over? Yan Maoxing said with a worried look. Not only can we not take back Mang Mountain, but 150,000 troops might not even be able to withdraw, risking the complete annihilation? 150,000 people. If these 150,000 people all die, we might lose the 6 states of the West, nearly a fifth of the territory of our great Shang dynasty. The only silver lining, Ming Qingfeng said, is that the food and fodder are intact. The soldiers within Guandu can still survive for a while. We can only hope for a turnaround now. The so-called turnaround is nothing but Chun Sanxi alone, Minister of Personnel Ming Chun pointed out bluntly. But, if Chun Sanxi could have beaten Han Xiang, he would have done it long ago. Why wait until now? What follows is just a slow death. There's also Prince Jiannan, Ming Qingfeng said. Prince Jiannan can perhaps squeeze out some troops. Compared to the capital city, it's closer to the three prefectures, and food and fodder can be prepared independently. We must notify Prince Jiannan immediately. Moreover, Chao Huan thought of more ways. Help me to the Longevity Palace. Let my father seek help from the immortal master of the Shenyun sect. If we can get more immortal masters, there might still be hope. Right? Minister of Revenue Tian Guang said. Young pavilion master, if I remember correctly. Both the magistrates and commanders of Wu County and Guangyuan have been disciples of Elder Yen. Even though it's been many years since they were in the capital city, they should still remember their old ties. Right? These two bastards. Yan Maoxing, so angry that his official cap was askew, declared, I'm writing to them now to see what they intend to do. The eldest and second sons of the commander of Wu County, as it happens, are still in the capital city, he said as he hurriedly left. Yen Mansion, Wudong Court, this place, is the residence of the chief minister, Elder Yen. In the courtyard, there stands an ancient Wudong tree, its branches and eaves home to various birds. Chapter 647. How can one remain in low spirits under others for long? _5. Elder Yen had a well-known hobby, which was raising birds. Any bird from here could easily be worth hundreds of thousands of silver, and some exotic beasts were even priceless. It was said that each year, just the cost of feeding the exotic birds exceeded 2 million silver. Yen Liang, who was advanced in years and frail, sat in a rattan chair with 2 young maids by his side, one pouring tea, the other holding prepared fruit with respectful expressions. In the palm of the elder's hand, he pinched a handful of colorful seeds, looking at the birds that occasionally landed on his arms, his face filled with kindness and friendliness. My dear father, what time is it already? And you still have the mood to play with birds here. Yan Maoxing strode up angrily, causing the birds to fly into a panic. Do you know that Yu Siji and Du Shaochen have betrayed the country and defected to the enemy? Those two, we were the ones who promoted them from scratch. With their moves, not only have they put the great Shang dynasty in a fix, aren't they also digging a hole for us? Last time, 2 fools from Inding Prefecture lost control for 10 days in Yunzhou, and rumors outside already linked it to us. With such an uproar this time, even jumping into the Yellow River won't wash us clean. No way. I have to write a letter to ask them what they mean. Don't bother writing. Of course, I must write. Even if it's useless, I must write. I said don't write. Don't you understand? It wasn't until Elder Yen stressed his tone that Yan Maoxing suddenly stopped in his tracks. As if he had realized something, His pupils shrank and he quickly stepped forward to his father. Father, you knew about this all along. Such a significant event had occurred. And yet his father showed not the slightest reaction. This in itself was telling. What are you still doing here? Get out. Yan Maoxing sent the two maids away and then gazed at his father, lowering his voice to ask, Father, could it be that you? Elder Yan did not reply, just idly playing with a brightly feathered bird. Could it really be? Why? Yan Maoxing was stunned and he cautiously asked, Father, have you betrayed the country? Has our Yan family allied with Luoya Valley in West Qi? Upon hearing this, Elder Yan closed his eyes, and after a long while, he sighed deeply. Yan Maoxing, after all these years in the court, you really have been just going through the motions, thinking yourself clever while actually being single-minded. So there's no betrayal. Yan Maoxing thoughtfully said, If there's no betrayal, then father, what is the meaning behind letting you Siji and the others defect to the enemy? What? He stopped mid-sentence. He understood. All the mysteries of the 10-day incident in Yunzhou became clear. Is it that person? Yan Maoxing questioned, beyond baffled. Why? Wouldn't we suffer a huge loss if the 150,000-strong army was gone? Or does Luoya Valley offer something more valuable than 150,000 troops? Yan Maoxing, there are many things that I have never told you. This world is not as simple as you imagine. The emperor is an ambitious ruler. He also has his unavoidable difficulties. In any case, you only need to know that only the emperor can maintain the stability of this world. Yan Liang scattered all the seeds in his hands onto the ground, then slowly clapped his hands. For the sake of society, it is inevitable to sacrifice a few people. But Yan Maoxing felt a shudder of fear. If we are the ones doing all these things, what should we do if someone uses them against us in the future? Yan Maoxing, how do you think I became the chief minister of the cabinet from a top scholar who emerged from a remote village, all within a mere 5 years? In the court, if you want to advance, you must do what other servants can't do. As for your concerns, Elder Yan said leisurely, for anyone trying to take us down, it doesn't count unless the emperor says so. So-called leverage only works if the emperor thinks it's leverage. I am old. Sooner or later, the Yan family will depend on you. You are too self-righteous and not meticulous enough in your actions. Once I'm gone, if you want to survive in the court, you only need to remember one thing. In the Great Shang dynasty, there is only one person who can call the wind and summon the rain, and that is the emperor. If the Yan family wants to remain relevant, we can only be the ones who shelter from the storm, even if the storm might crush us to death, and we must block it without hesitation. Son, remember that. Duke Wuan Mansion. In the courtyard pavilion, a chessboard and a tea tray were set out. The green-robed scholar gazed at the pieces on the board, speechless for a long while. General Fong. Chao Ji broke the silence first. Don't you think there's a problem? Fong Qingyun cast away the chess piece in his hand. Your Highness, just speak plainly. It must be the doing of Elder Yan and his son. Chao Ji spoke with righteous indignation. How can my great Shang dynasty continue to suffer such treacherous officials to wreak havoc in the court? Why don't we join forces to eradicate this menace and restore a clear sky over the great Shang court? Cough, cough, cough. A chill wind blew, and Fong Qing, wrapped in a heavy cloak, began to cough. He didn't answer directly, instead saying in a subdued voice, Your Highness, are you aiming to eliminate the Yan party or the person behind the Yan party? General Fong is a wise man. There's no need for me to spell it out. Chao Ji fiddled with the teapot, pouring water directly into his mouth from the spout, drank a few sips, then continued. I must remind you, there isn't much time left. Fong Qingyun looked straight at him. Do you have the strength? Still a bit short. Chao Ji raised an eyebrow, hence the need for General Fong's help. Fong Qingyun shook his head slightly. Your Highness, as I said before, I am just a dying man, barely scraping by. I'm afraid I won't be of much help to your Highness. Chapter 648. How can one remain in low spirits under others for long? _6. General Fong. My elder brother is going to die. Chao Ji put down the teapot, grasped a chess piece and outlined the situation at Guandu. In a few months, when supplies are cut off and cultivators from the high realm swarm in, my brother will undoubtedly die, and the people from Xingyun sect certainly won't save him. On the other hand, this sworn brother of mine will. General, give me the nod and I'll figure out a way to rescue my brother to the capital city. Afterward, together we shall eradicate the Yan party. How about it? I can't promise anything on behalf of my junior fellow disciple, and I'm sure he won't leave, General Fong replied. Fong Qingyun indifferently said, Even if you go, it would be a waste of time. I know he's stubborn, but I can wait, Chao Ji said. When the 15,000 men are gone and only he is left, he will inevitably agree. Then, with all his fury, he will certainly help me. You can try. Fong Qingyun didn't say more. If trying is what it takes, then I will make arrangements to first rescue my brother from the pit. Having said that, Chao Ji draped on the black mantle beside him, stepped into the snowstorm, and disappeared. Shortly after he left, A spy from the governor mansion hidden among the genie guard quietly appeared, his voice somber. You must have seen the latest frontline situation reports delivered recently, right? The court has already struck a deal with Luoya Valley but hasn't cut off the supplies just yet. I wonder why. It's simple. Fang Qingyun stared at the chessboard. If they truly exchanged the ancestor vein for Foundation establishment pills, the loss would be too significant. His Majesty still holds a bit of hope for my junior fellow disciple, wanting to see if he can create a miracle. If he can win this battle against all odds, there's still the chance to renege. I understand. The genie guard nodded. Regardless of whether this battle is lost or won, the one on the dragon chair will at least get a Foundation establishment pill. That really is a clever move. Yes, he has never lost. Master reached the pinnacle in this world, but in reality, everything was controlled by him until his death. Unwilling disciple, Black Tortoise Camp, Master's life expectancy, my leg. One by one, he has never lost. People call me Phoenix. What Phoenix am I? I still fall short of him. As he spoke, seemingly touched by a painful memory, Fang Qingyun coughed more violently, eventually coughing up a mouthful of fresh blood onto the chessboard. Brother Fang, are you all right? The genie guard hurried forward to support him, clumsily offering a cloth. I'm fine. Where's the proof? Fang Qingyun, catching his breath, didn't accept it. How's the collection going? The information from the past 10 days in Yunzhou is almost complete. We're still searching for this times. There shouldn't be any problems. Just give me a bit more time. The genie guard paused. Moreover, this time, no matter what, with Chaoji stepping in to save someone, even if the situation at the front really can't be salvaged, at least the young master isn't in life-threatening danger. He turned his head, looking at the footprints left by Chaoji in the snow within the courtyard. Speaking of which, the 12th prince, I knew from early on that he's actually the most ambitious. When the former crown prince was causing trouble in Ziwei Mountain, he took the opportunity to eliminate a large number of people, replacing them with his and King Jin's men from the 6th prince. If the Yen party falls, most of the people in the court will be his and King Jin's. And then, leveraging the power of seeking Immortal Tower behind the scenes, once successful, he'll swiftly secure the throne. This time, his effort to win over and make use of Chun Sansi for himself is apparent. Yes, but he's being somewhat presumptuous. Normally cordial and good-natured, in that moment, Fang Qingyun's eyes gleamed unprecedentedly sharp. How can the men of my governor mansion always remain suppressed? Yes. The genie guard looked toward the direction of the Imperial Palace. Over these years, staying in the Imperial Palace, I've witnessed many things happening. Several times, I was so frustrated I wanted to leave. No, I had actually packed my bags. It was 4 years ago in the 72nd year of Longqing. The old governor's life was nearing its end, and he still had to deal with the slaughter and spirit veins, utterly unable to handle Cao Kai, and the governor mansion didn't have a way out either. Everyone was very desperate. Everyone knew, as soon as the governor dies, the court will move against the Sun family. The best outcome would be to willingly put on chains and be an obedient dog, and with some luck, perhaps even cling to a meager life. Only pity the remaining children of the governor. Hu Qi wouldn't be able to escape being confined in the capital city for a lifetime, and Sun Li would have to marry into the imperial family or someone else to be like a bird in a cage. This place, it still belongs to the Chao family. Later, if Cao Kai needs to, he could also gather herbs as if using his own subjects to boost his cultivation or prolong his life. Nothing would change at all. Until the eve of an incident in Yunzhou in the 72nd winter of Longqing, Brother Fang sent me a letter. The letter said, "You and the governor at the shore of Hongze River met a young man unlike the others. He might be able to shoulder the burden that the governor mansion had failed to carry." Thus, everything gained a glimmer of hope. In a flash, over 4 years have passed. The old governor passed away. The young master has also gained the ability to stand on his own. But who could have guessed, this time, there would be such a drama at Guandu? At this point, the genie guard nearly gnashed his molars. 15,000 soldiers, disposable as if to chow as to say they are dispensable. It's true that the young master isn't in danger this time. But, if Hongze camp is lost, the governor mansion will indeed run out of military resources. Then we can only continue to endure. Guandu, Guandu, Guandu. Fang Qingyun stared at the blood-stained chessboard. The outcome of the Battle of Guandu will change the course of the world. Chapter 649. Guandu grows rebellious intentions. Guandu, a desolate land. Chun Sansi closed his eyes and concentrated, absorbing the thick spiritual energy from the spiritual pearl through his fire spirit root. The vortex-like spiritual energy continuously drew in nature's spiritual energy. Once the wisps and strands of spiritual energy entered his body, they flowed through his limbs and bones, circulating through his meridians, and ultimately condensed into a wisp of mist in his dantian where 10 threads of mist twisted and thickened, becoming more substantial. At this point, inside his dantian, there were already 3 threads of mist, occupying 1/3 of his dantian. Cultivation technique. Swallowing fire technique. Qi refining 3rd layer. Progress. 0 out of 800. The third layer of qi refining is the last threshold of the early stage qi refining. Crossing this threshold will lead to a breakthrough to the middle stage of qi refining, and the spirit root will be accordingly enhanced. Beyond that, after the third layer of the swallowing fire technique, there comes an attached spell named flame manipulation technique, which can't be cultivated independently. It can only be enhanced once the technique has broken through. Boom! Chun Sansi mobilized his mana, and suddenly a flame rose above his palm. Then it condensed into a fireball, bouncing up and down, ready to leap forth. Spell. Flame manipulation technique. Entry level. Progress. Increases with realm. Utility. Flame manipulation. Looking at the content on the panel, Chun Sansi experimented a few times. Common early-stage qi refining cultivators could only practice basic spells like Fire Bomb skill and Ice Cone skill. In comparison, flame manipulation technique was considered to be of higher quality. Not only could it condense flames from the caster's dantian, but it also allowed for the control of external flames, which is known as flame manipulation. Chun Sansi gathered a pile of firewood and straw, lit it with a fire stick, and once it burned fiercely, he controlled the flames with his mana just like drawing water with a dragon's suction, absorbing all the flames into a massive fireball above his palm. Ordinary worldly fires hardly posed a threat to cultivators, let alone slightly higher-level martial artists. Their greatest use was to intimidate. Chun Sansi also tried with the immortal treasure Strange Fire. He didn't succeed. The sensation was like trying to lift a heavy object. The strength was insufficient to even raise it. Of course, this was just the entry stage of flame manipulation technique. With improved proficiency, his ability to control fire would become stronger and stronger, and once it reached the limit, he would definitely be able to control the abnormal fire. Moreover, the swallowing fire technique mentioned that at a certain level of cultivation, one could awaken divine skills, but this required a more complete cultivation technique. The qi refining technique alone was not enough. Chun Sansi hadn't been in the cultivation world for long, but he knew that a technique associated with divine skills was not ordinary, and it was no wonder that it had been so expensive initially. Moreover, he suspected that like the 99% new magic artifacts in the black market, most probably came from robbing and killing. Sigh. Cultivating the Tao was a way for Chun Sansi to relax. After enough recovery of his qi power, he stood up and picked up the Longdan bright silver spear, dancing with it in the dark wilderness. Now, 5 of the 8 scenic gods had been awakened. They were Jiuanzi, Zuanfua, Tongzhong, Ling Jiansheng, and Ling Emogai, with only the last 3 scenic gods remaining. Awakening them would completely activate the upper scenic gods and enter the true power realm. Following the neck marrow god Ling Emogai is the Lu Shin Ilifu. Lu Shin means the spine. The spine is the foundation of the body's movement. If the spine is damaged, the body immediately becomes paralyzed. Bone training martial artists include the tempering of the spine. But that is just the most superficial level of cultivation. Only after reaching martial saint is the true refinement and utilization of the body's limits achieved. As the movement of the dragon scripture was carried out with precision, spiritual energy ceaselessly refined his body, drawn into him, circulating through the meridians, and it was only after becoming more than a martial saint that Chun Sansi could better appreciate the benefits of expanding his meridians by cultivating various martial arts techniques, thus more comprehensively refining his body. In a particular moment of cultivation, he suddenly felt the spiritual energy entering his body begin to reverse its flow, much like the spirit root absorbing nature's spiritual energy. His spine also started to consume the spiritual energy without restraint, and then intense pain followed. For the first time since rising above martial saint, Chun Sansi felt pain during cultivation, but this also signified a drastic transformation in his body. He had long grown accustomed to pain, showing no change in expression, just maintaining the fire-breathing technique until behind him, within his spine, a scenic god awakened, emitting a faint white jade light. The Lu Shen, named Yi Lifu, styled Daozhu, 3 inches and 5 feet tall, clad in white jade robes. Awaken. Cultivation technique. Dragon scripture. Not yet entry level. Progress. 72 out of 100. With only the last 2 scenic gods remaining, the upper scenic gods would be completely opened, true qi would condense into true power, and he would become a true power warrior. At this point, 6 of the 8 scenic gods had been awakened. Chun Sansi's physique had received a tremendous boost. It was just a pity. Time was becoming more urgent. He wasn't entirely sure he could break through to true power before the supplies were exhausted. The gap between transcend mortality and true power is like a chasm. With just martial arts, he certainly wasn't a match for someone in the true power realm. Fortunately, he wasn't just a martial artist but cultivated both body and law. Even if he couldn't kill a true power warrior, he wasn't completely powerless. Putting away the Longdan bright silver spear, Chun Sansi took out his black snake bow and began to roam through the wilderness, practicing archery and hunting for game. Even though these scant prey did little for a large army, it was much better than doing nothing at all. Skill archery. Perfection. Breakthrough 3rd stage. Progress. 0/2000. Utility. For arrows shot simultaneously, unavoidable.
Chapter 650 Guan du Grosse Rebellion Intention 2.
For arrows released simultaneously, Inescapable. The power of a single bow drawn and released was equivalent to that of 4 separate attacks. Of course, it needed accumulation. The same amount of true chi, concentrated on a single arrow instead of dispersed across 4, naturally differed in power. To draw it to full force required time to build up. And there was another issue, which was the limited number of arrows. There were only 100 left of the ghost vein wood arrows, and around 20 or so of the flowing light arrows, magic artifacts matched with the black snake bow. The former could only store true chi, while the latter could carry the evil chi innate to the black snake bow. It was sufficient, as long as he did not waste them recklessly. After breaking through several bottlenecks in succession, Chen Sansi felt tremendously gratified. However, the mountaintop he was on was not large, and recently he had almost depleted it of prey. After much searching, he found only a single tiger. With one punch, he killed the tiger that was in deep sleep and dragged it out of its cave, stowing it into his storage bag. Chen Sansi rode Qian Sun, unhurriedly heading back towards the camp. On horseback, he gently stroked the cloud-like mane, chatting idly. It would be great if you could fly. Otherwise, once I reach the middle stage of chi refining and learn to travel by sword flight, I won't be able to ride you. Qian Sun continued walking, head bowed. In a vague sense, Chen Sansi thought he heard a cold snort. He had heard that spiritual beasts and members of the demon clan often lived very long lives. In any case, his warhorse could accompany him for a long time. From Pyong, big and small battles were all experienced alongside his white swan horse. This time at Guandu, yet another desperate battle awaited. As he drew closer to the city, Chen Sansi's mind shifted from cultivation to the grave military situation. Food supplies within the city dwindled day by day, and continuing like this meant nothing but a slow death. In fact, after the battle in the wasteland, he had found the weakness in soldier immortal Han Xiang. But the opportunity to exploit this weakness had not yet appeared. Buzz! While Chen Sansi was pondering strategies to defeat the enemy, he suddenly sensed someone closing in from behind, and with a flash of spirit light, the black snake bow quietly appeared with a flowing light arrow pointing skyward, ready to strike. And then, in the night sky, a man with a detached air and an aura of immortality approached, traveling by sword flight. Chi refining perfection. Chen Sansi was not afraid. With 6 of the 8 scenic divine caves openings, he could ensure his own safety even if he could not win in a fight, and furthermore, once the signaling arrows were fired, Wang Jun and others wouldn't be long in arriving here. Brother, you're so quick to make a move without even asking who I am? The man stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking down disdainfully. Since the man spoke in such a way, it indicated he was neither from the court nor from Luoya Valley. Chen Sansi said in a deep voice, Brother, if you have something to say, just say it. Why beat around the bush? I am Cui Zhichen, Tower Master of the Seeking Immortal Tower. The man introduced himself amid the night wind. Seeking Immortal Tower? Almost without thinking, Chen Sansi guessed who had sent this man. The 12th Prince, Chao Ji. Back on Ziwei Mountain, he had discovered that Chao Ji had a deep connection with the Seeking Immortal Tower. What he did not expect, however, was for the Tower Master of Seeking Immortal Tower to have achieved chi refining perfection. Surely, the millennium-old heritage must contain many treasures. Rest assured, Brother Chen, I am not here to deal with those 2 traitors of the Seeking Immortal Tower, Cui Zhichen said leisurely. I have come specially to assist you. Assist me? Chen Sansi asked. How do you intend to assist? Save your life. Looking towards the direction of Guandu, Cui Zhichen spoke naturally. With pursuers in front and no way out behind at Guandu, and the day when the food supplies are exhausted being your demise, there's no need for you to waste time here aimlessly. Just leave with me now, as only I can ensure your safe departure. Then, go where? Chen Sansi put away the black snake bow. The capital city? Brother Chen is indeed smart, urged Cui Zhichen. What are we waiting for then? Let's go. Forget it, Chen Sansi said indifferently. I, Chen Sansi, am a commander, and the words, flee from battle, are not in my vocabulary. Oh, Cui Zhichen teased. Even if it means certain death? Even then, Chen Sansi replied decisively. If you truly intend to help, you might as well stay and contribute to the fight. Contribute to the fight? Cui Zhichen scoffed. With people behind wanting you dead, even if I wanted to help, it'd probably be in vain. So it's not that you can't. Chen Sansi paused and questioned. But that you won't? The moment this person appeared, he knew what Chao Ji intended to do. Without a doubt, he wanted to whisk Chen Sansi away to the capital city to aid in overcoming Lord Yan's rebellion. Thereafter, King Jin would be unchallenged in court. Moreover, Chao Ji probably didn't want this battle to be won. Because to overcome a rebellion, one needed evidence. And what better evidence could there be than the loss of 150,000 lives at Guandu? Just like how the faction of the previous crown prince held evidence of Yunzhou's 10 days of turmoil but did nothing to stop it from happening. They needed the dead, the enemy to make mistakes, and they needed to hold the enemy's handle in their hands. Once again, factional struggles. Struggle as they might. In the end, it was all for the throne. With the incursion of the cultivation world, the dragon chair took on even greater significance, for whoever sat upon it had the right to vie for the resources of the entire eastern continent. Cui Zhichen spoke up again. So this means you refuse to leave? Chun Sansi did not respond further and rode off on Chen Sun. I hope you give it some thought. Cui Zhichen's voice still echoed from behind. Whenever you come to a decision, come back and find me. Boom! The city gate swung open. Chun Sansi proceeded directly to the military camp. Along the way, many of the supervising soldiers saw him and made way, whispering among themselves afterwards. Chapter 651 Guandu grows rebellious intentions _3. These soldiers thought their voices were very low. But in reality, Chun Sansi heard everything loud and clear. I heard that our food is going to run out soon. How did you know that? I saw it with my own eyes. The chief accountant of the granary placed the grain outside to make it look plentiful. But in reality, there is hardly any left. Grain is a minor issue. The situation with the 3 prefectures is grave. You might not know it yet, but the 3 prefectures have rebelled. And now, they have us completely trapped at Guandu. Is that true? Absolutely true. Although Chun Sansi had ordered that the recent news not be revealed to the soldiers. Eventually, the truth would come out, as no secret could be contained forever. The situation was becoming increasingly pessimistic. Back at the Central Army tent, Chun Sansi saw Wang Jun waiting there, and as he sat down at the commander's seat, he asked, "What about the 3 prefectures? Their betrayal is firm, especially the defender." Wang Jun slightly shook his head. Even offering them more than what Luoya Valley did not sway them. That's normal, Chu Shixiang said. They are well aware that regardless of the circumstances, those who rebel and then surrender never meet good ends. Wang Jun continued. Prince Zhen also dispatched some troops to attack, but essentially, it's ineffective, and it's nearly impossible to conquer them before the grains run out. Rather than relying on this. Lately, a few people within the West Qi army have expressed intentions of defection. Here are the lists and their correspondences. You can look at them. Chun Sansi took the secret letters and reviewed each one. There is a cultivator from Luoya Valley, Yan Ingli, who is in a similar situation to Ma Jin. For the prosperity of his clan, he's willing to act as our internal support. Our Shangyun sect can meet his conditions. However, his status is not high. Responsible for coordinating with the cavalry patrols, he essentially cannot provide us with crucial intelligence. There are also a few assistant generals, most of whom have children with spirit roots, but with mediocre qualifications who were not admitted to Luoya Valley. Hence, they hope to join the Shangyun sect. Some are involved in internal strife, uncertain about their future, and wish to seek a new path. Most notably, there's a strategist named Liao Fong. I know of this man. Chu Shixiang took over the conversation, saying, this Liao Fong is also quite a figure in West Qi, known as an exceptional strategist, famously called the White Robe Strategist. Yet over the years, this title has come into your possession. He even once boasted that he would capture you personally. Oh, Chun Sansi asked with interest. Then why is he exchanging letters with us? Because of Han Xiang. Wang Jun explained. Originally, Zhong Wuxin and Liao Fong were in joint command of the battle. When the military immortal Han Xiang arrived, he not only took over command but also relegated him to oversee the grain supplies in the rear. Grain. It is the key to this war. Not only is the Great Shang dynasty about to run out of grain, but the West Qi are also facing a shortage of supplies. Currently, the autumn harvest was just recently over, so it was still possible to forcibly confiscate more grain. But Chun Sansi was certain that it definitely would also be the last batch. If a way could be found to destroy this batch of grain, the collapse of West Qi would only happen faster than that of Great Shang. Is it possible to find it? Chun Sansi asked while looking at the map. You said last time that they are most likely to store the grain in one of Wu City, Yunju Prefecture, or Lu Mansion, and indeed it is so. Wang Jun detailed. During this period, I have been sending Taoists at great risk of being surrounded and killed to scout. Coupled with ground scouts, we can confirm that West Qi has indeed been transporting large quantities of grain to these places in recent days. At the same time, Tong Xiaochu, who had entered midway and listened for a while, finally spoke up. It seems Han Xiang is not planning to put all his eggs in one basket. No. Chun Sansi definitively said. More than 90% of the grain is within one of the 3 cities. It's not possible that it's spread out. You all check the terrain again. Indeed. Tong Xiaochu rubbed his chin, muttering. These 3 cities and their grain paths are quite distant. Dividing the storage would only lead to greater losses. They couldn't afford to be so wasteful. Grain, even cultivators couldn't do much about it. Cultivators have storage bags, true, but the space within those bags is not unlimited. Compared to the mountains-like daily consumption of an army of several 100,000, their effect is minuscule. Does the supervisor mean, Chu Shixiang said, that Han Xiang is setting up a feint? Deliberately confusing us? If that's really the case, to figure out where the grain is, I'm afraid. We can only hope for that Liao Fong. What did Wang Jun, the immortal master, say? The man is extremely greedy, asking for much. Wang Jun snorted. First, he wants earthly honors and titles, and after discovering he has a mid-grade spirit root, he also demands a wealth of cultivation resources, not considering his age at all as it's already too late for him. This person is no good. Tong Xiaochu also added, not to mention his greed, but he is also extremely lecherous, particularly fond of abducting peasant women, a favorite activity of his, and his combat skills are the only reason he holds a high position. Write to him then. Chun Sansi said, this matter is critical. It isn't the time to consider personal character. Forget it. I'll write it personally. West Qi Army. Slam. A drunken Liao Fong heavily smashed the wine bowl down. Sir, perhaps you should drink less. A deputy general suggested. I, the distinguished white-robed, why should I be reduced to managing grain for that Han Xiong? Why? Liao Fong felt suffocated. I have battled north and south for so many years, won countless victories, big and small. How am I inferior to someone surnamed Han, just because he calls himself military immortal? I am the ancestor of soldiers. I am his forefather.
Chapter 652 Guan du Grosse Rebellion Intention 4.
My lord. The deputy general tried to stop him, but was pushed away. Liao Fong continued discontentedly. And the result? Up to now, aren't we still at a deadlock? If it were me, I would have captured that fake white robe chancer long ago. Bang! In the midst of his tirade, the door was kicked open. A cultivator, smelling the full room of alcohol, frowned and coldly chided. Han has repeatedly ordered that no one should drink alcohol before the end of the war. Wu City is crucial for food and fodder. It must be strictly obeyed. If you won't let me command, what's wrong with me drinking a little? Liao Fong abruptly stood up. Stop pestering me. Believe it or not, I, Fong White Robe, can wipe out your 300,000 army in a snap of my fingers. Clang! Before he could finish speaking, a spirit light flashed. A flying sword landed on Liao Fong's neck, causing bright red blood to flow where the skin met the sharp blade, sobering him up considerably. Mortal trash. The cultivator ultimately did not strike. If it weren't for you still being of use, I would have slaughtered you by now. If you do not account for the rations by tomorrow morning, just wait for death. Having said this, he left with a flick of his sleeves. Ah! Liao Fong collapsed on the ground, covering his bleeding neck with his hand, first gasping for air in panic, then gradually turning his panic into rage. Too much bullying. My lord, just endure it, the deputy general said helplessly. After all, we need to rely on these immortal masters to fight the war. Get lost, you two get out. Liao Fong dismissed the man, feeling utmost grievance. About half an hour later, a white-haired old man appeared silently in the room. It was Yan Ingli, a cultivator who had switched allegiance to dashing, who began, How about it? Wang Jun asked me to see whether you've considered it carefully. Did they agree to my conditions? Liao Fong cursed. That Wang Jun is so stingy, why should I save them? They agreed. Not only did they agree, but Chun Sansi even personally wrote you a letter. As Yan Ingli spoke, he threw a letter scroll. Take a good look at it yourself. Who? A Chen? Only then did Liao Fong pick up the letter to read, and soon scoffed. Isn't he supposed to be formidable? In the end, he still needs to beg me for something. Who is the real white robe? Better think quickly. Yan Ingli reminded. If it's too late, you might lose these conditions. Time flew by swiftly. The two armies were in a tense standoff, and in the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. With only 1 month left until the Shang dynasty ran out of food and fodder. In a remote place, Chun Sansi was not discomposed by anxiety. On the contrary, after handling the necessary military duties each day, he would find a place to cultivate, day after day with utmost calm. To outsiders, it seemed as though he was unconcerned by the war at all. The Jingshen in the human body representing different parts do not merely refer to these organs like the eye godling Jiansheng. It's not that the eyes are divine. Rather, within this location divine power dwells, concealing a Jingshen who is merely dormant there. Thus, more accurately, it's the god within the eyes. At this moment, Chun Sansi was practicing the 7th of the upper 8 scenery's elements, nose god. Not actually cultivating the nose, but the Jingshen in that location. The human body, in equilibrium between yin and yang, encompasses all phenomena, and its potential is boundless. These Jingshen, linked by specific Tao positions, can exert power. Bursts of spiritual energy began converging towards the position of Chun Sansi's nose, where seemingly a dead tree, under the nourishing rain, gradually revived, sprouted roots again, and then robustly grew. Suddenly, a spirit light of blue, yellow, white colors shone. The nose god, named Zhong Longyu, styled Dao Wei, 2.5 inches long, dressed in blue, yellow, and white. Cultivation technique. Dragon scripture. Entry level. Progress. 86 out of 100. 8 scenic gods. 7 unfolded. With only the last Jingshen left, he could step into the true power realm. And time was also left with only 1 month. Chun Sansi next prepared to go without sleep or rest, unsure if there was enough time. He put away his long spear, mounted his white horse, and rode back to the city. As he approached the city gate, he encountered a squad of soldiers returning to camp, about a dozen or so, led by an assistant general. Some had food loaded on their horses, others tied up chickens and ducks, and even led a cow. Chun? Commander Chun? The assistant general was taken aback, clearly not expecting to encounter the commander here. They all dismounted and bowed. "We greet the commander." "You." Chan Sansi scanned the group. "Where did these things come from?" The group's eyes shifted around. "Commander," the assistant general stammered. "We went hunting. We went up the mountain to hunt." "Up the mountain?" Chan Sansi paused. "And you managed to hunt for food?" Thud. The assistant general fell to his knees. "Sir, we actually bought it from nearby villagers." "Bought it?" Chan Sansi eyed the blood stains on one of their armors. "Or stole it?" "Someone. Take them all down." Immediately, they were restrained inside the city. The investigation also clarified things quickly. "Our food supplies could last another month in theory, but in truth, the supply began decreasing a month ago, and in the last half-month, our brothers have hardly anything to eat," Tong Lu reported. "So, these people went to the village to buy food, but before the war began, the food had already been requisitioned, and the common people barely had enough for themselves, let alone extra to sell. Those brothers then started to steal, and accidentally killed an old man." Chapter 653 Guandu grows rebellious intentions _5. "Behead them," Chan Sansi ordered. "Tell everyone. Anyone who dares to steal even a grain of food from the people will meet this fate." "All 15 of them to be beheaded?" Tong Lu hurriedly said. "Among them is an assistant general who has also made contributions in the past." Chan Sansi didn't speak, only looked up at him. "I understand." Tong Lu dared not say more and could only go to carry out the order. Banditry cannot be tolerated. Once this mindset spreads, no matter how elite the troops, they will instantly become no better than bandits, a rabble easily crushed. And to put it bluntly, how much stored grain can there be in the homes of the local people? Even if the army were to plunder them completely, how many more days could they last? Fostering such a climate will only lead to quicker collapse. After the beheadings, Chan Sansi added to the others, "Hang the heads on the city gates for all to see. Return however much grain was stolen, especially to those families who have lost someone. Compensate them until they are satisfied. Assign Wang Li to handle this matter." "Yes. What about Liao Feng?" Chan Sansi asked. Replying to the supervisor, Tong Xiaochu answered, "There's been no response yet. The message should have been delivered to him by now, but for some reason, he's deliberately dragging his feet without replying." "What else could it be for?" Wang Jun scoffed. "He wants more benefits." In the blink of an eye, several days had passed. Chan Sansi only rested for 2 hours each day, spending the remainder cultivating. But as time went on, the daily ration for the soldiers dwindled, and disorder increasingly took hold. They dared not plunder any longer, so they simply deserted. Hongza camp had no issues, standing immovable as a mountain. But the supervisor's army, having been defeated for half a year and trapped here for another half, coupled with the knowledge that provisions had run out and there were revolts in the rear with no way out, had already seen their morale plummet to rock bottom. Basically, everyday people would attempt to desert. "Supervisor." Tong Xiaochu, having just dealt with a group of people, came into the central army tent looking harried and said, "It's no good, we only have enough provisions for another 20-some days, and it can no longer be concealed." Now they're not just deserting, but many mid-ranking generals have received letters of persuasion from West Qi. Yesterday, while patrolling outside, an immortal master from West Qi was killed, and within his storage bag were filled with secret correspondences with our military generals. If this continues, out of the 150,000 troops, at least 40,000 will mutiny. 40,000. It might not seem like a significant percentage, but when it occurs internally, the problem is severe. Rustling. Tong Lu took out a sackcloth bag and poured out various secret letters. Should we take action in advance to prevent them from causing trouble? Chan Sansi, who had planned to cultivate, had no choice but to make time. "Take the letters. Gather everyone in the martial arts arena." "Supervisor Chan, are you planning to make an example out of someone publicly?" Tong Xiaochu nodded thoughtfully. "That might be good, it will certainly deter them." A few hours later, at dusk, in the martial arts arena, the 150,000 troops had gathered together before nightfall. Among them, assistant generals and above, along with civil servant officers, were all gathered at the very front. After they had arrived, a figure in a white robe walked onto the high platform amidst the evening breeze, and beneath his feet were piles of secret letters. Seeing this, several assistant generals immediately broke out in cold sweat. "These." Tong Xiaochu stood beside the man in the white robe, casually grabbing several letters and holding them up high. "I suppose some of you are quite familiar with these, right? A bunch of scumbags. A sword is sharpened for years to be used in a moment's notice. The Great Shang Court provides you with rations, teaches you martial arts, and supplies you with medicinal herbs. Now is the time to serve the court, and you heartless creatures actually think of defecting. Supervisor, give the order. Tear open these letters, and behead them one by one." Upon hearing this, those assistant generals' hands all moved to the hilts of their swords at their waists, ready for a desperate struggle. But unexpectedly, the next words from the man in the white robe were completely opposite to what they all had imagined. "Burn them." "What? Just burn them all?" Chan Sansi repeated. If it's to be burned, then burn it, why all the fuss? Seeing Tong Xiaochu not reacting, Chu Shixiang directly threw his torch onto the pile of letters. Before the eyes of thousands, these pieces of evidence that should have warranted capital punishment were all set ablaze until reduced to ashes. Those assistant generals and civil servants bowed their heads, hiding the calm in their pupils. I haven't seen the letters. Chan Sansi spoke, his voice, although not shouted, reached every corner calmly. So you can rest assured, no one will trouble you. You want to survive, I can understand that. Given the current situation, if these would-be defectors, go to West Qi out of desperation, even if you survive, will you have any prospects in the future? Who would re-employ traitors? But, on the contrary, if you clench your teeth and hold out just a little longer, you will soon have the opportunity to earn great achievements and establish careers. Earn great achievements and establish careers. 150,000 people. Both generals and soldiers looked at each other, perplexed. They were clearly in dire straits, so where was this opportunity to earn achievements? Dire straits. Chan Sansi seemed to see right through their hearts. No, it's the moment for a counterstrike. In Chen's eyes, West Qi's 300,000-strong army is already a corpse mountain. With these words, the entire arena was astir. Clearly facing certain death, how could it be that, in the mouth of this commander, it sounded like the complete opposite? I, Chun, have never lied to my subordinates. Chun Sansi's voice was resolute. Have I ever been defeated? Indeed, never. The soldiers of the supervisor's army, even if they were not well acquainted with Chen Sansi, had to admit this was true. Chapter 654 Guandu grows rebellious intentions _6. The White Robe, indeed, has never been defeated. During this Western expedition, although we haven't won any battles, we have always been in a stalemate. But, currently without food, and with no way to retreat, unable to defeat the opposition, how can we win? 15 days. Just as they were half in doubt, the sound like a great bell or a giant drum rose once again, deafening. In at most 15 days, I will shatter West Qi, and I will not go back on my word. After 15 days, if we can't crush the enemy army, whether to flee or to surrender, I absolutely won't stop you. But within these 15 days, anyone who wavers in their resolve or violates military discipline will be executed along with their entire family. Whether to follow me to achieve great deeds, or to be a traitorous lackey, my brothers, it's your choice. With that, Chun Sansi said no more, turned, and left, vanishing from sight, leaving behind an army of more than 100,000, still in shock, unable to recover. 15 days? In 15 days, we can win? Then what about the past half year? Waiting for the right opportunity? Nonsense, of course. We're waiting for the right opportunity. The soldiers of Hongzhe camp began speaking one after another. Look at the sorry state of your supervisor's army. Back then, right outside Liangzhou City, 800 scouts killed 20,000 men. Just calculate it from that ratio. 800 killing 20,000. We have 150,000 soldiers. How many can we kill? How do we figure that out? Count it on your fingers. Have you forgotten? When Lord Governor first arrived at Bengal State, he had a conversation with Han Xiang, and he said then that Han Xiang was bound to lose. So, dragging it out until now is merely waiting for the right opportunity. That's not even a concern. Think back to the time in Ming State, and at Hulaguin. In short, whoever runs now is truly a fool. Up next, it's time to get promoted and make a fortune. The soldiers of Hongzhe camp, whether intentionally or not, vividly recounted every breathtaking victory they had experienced before. That's right. Chun Shui said it himself the last 15 days. If he weren't confident, he definitely wouldn't dare to speak like that. As a result of various reasons, the faith of the soldiers in the supervisor's army was reinforced, and their morale stabilized. Supervisor, I am in awe. Tong Xiaochu followed closely behind the White Robe. I thought you would discipline those guys, but instead, you simply burned the letter. What a brilliant move. Chan Sansi strode forward, saying, starting today, there's no need to conserve food. Let the brothers eat their fill every day. And after 15 days? Tong Xiaochu and the others were still anxious. After 15 days, we decide the outcome. Chun Sansi entered his tent. All he needed was to ascertain the location of the enemy's grain stores, and he could then strike directly at Han Xiang's vulnerability. During this period, he had repeatedly studied the maps, coupled with the intelligence collected. He could essentially rule out Yunju Prefecture, determining that the supplies must be within Wu City or Lu Mansion, with the former at 70% probability and the latter at 30%. When necessary, he would have to bet on the one with greater odds. Several more days passed. Liao Feng has sent a letter. Wang Jun flew into the tent on his sword before coming to a stop, producing a sealed letter. That fellow makes quite a few demands. I agreed to all of them before he finally consented to defect. Take a look for yourselves. Tong Xiaochu and the others glanced through it briefly and were immediately furious. The title of Marquis is one thing, as it would be fitting if he truly could help us mount a counterattack from desperation, but he even demands to be made a state duke within 5 years. Why doesn't he just demand to be an aliased king right away? I don't understand these demands for cultivation technique resources, but I can tell from the names alone that they're outrageously excessive. The most outrageous thing is, he actually wants Chen Dusher to personally greet him while wearing a black robe. Damn it. Spitting out the grass in his mouth, Wang Zhi said, I get it. Didn't he used to have some nickname, White Robe Strategist? This old rascal asking for a black robe is an insult. Downright too much. He said, Junior brother, didn't you say last night that you thought there was a 70% chance the supplies were in Wu City and a 30% chance in Lu Mansion? Why not just take a gamble on it then? We mustn't act rashly, Chen Sansi said. Just like back in Ming State when General Yusong risked his life to distract the enemy army, he had to agree similarly. This time, too, he could not let a so-called vanity affect the overall situation. That was a 30% chance. As a man commanding soldiers, how could he frivolously gamble with the lives of his brothers? The most important thing was, Chen Sansi himself had never claimed the title of White Robe. Initially, it was nothing more than a new outfit sewn for him by Sister Lan. In Lai State, he wore the white robe instead of armor because it made him stand out during surrenders, acting as a feature that could help when persuading cities to surrender. Ultimately, the color of his robes was of no consequence to him. Everything was in service of the war effort. In other words, had he initially worn a black robe, the world would have known him as Black Robe, and had he worn a red robe, they would have known him as Red Robe. The color of the robes had no intrinsic meaning. The significance lay in the person wearing them. Never mind 30%. Even if there were only a 10% chance, it's just a mere black robe. What could I not wear? Chen Sansi said indifferently. Tell him no problem. When can he arrive at the earliest? Within 3 to 5 days. Wang Jun said. I will find a way to bring him over. There must be no mistakes. Chen Sansi instructed. Once Liao Feng arrives and confirms whether or not the supplies are truly in Wu City, they could decide the victory. After the battle at Guandu concluded, they could clarify the reasons behind the rebellions in the 3 prefectures. If indeed instigated by the Chao family, intending to trap and kill him along with his 150,000 men, and with his mourning period over, they would inevitably pressure him to go to the capital city. They were intent on forcing him. Considering this, he could only say, a true man born between heaven and earth cannot be confined beneath others for long. Zhu Shixiang. Chen Sansi abruptly stood up. Immediately muster 50 cavalrymen, for we shall ride out with the dawn to face the enemy. What would happen thereafter was for later consideration. For now, Chen Sansi's task was to win this battle and lead the brothers of Hengze camp to survival. After the sun rises tomorrow, it will be time to reveal Han Xiang's vulnerabilities. It will also be the decisive moment at Guandu. A poised domination awaited release. Chapter 655 Decisive Victory. 50 riders? Chu Shixiang couldn't help but ask. Where are they going to strike? Wherever there are people, we will strike. Chen Sansi instructed. Understood. Chu Shixiang nodded. For their Hengze camp, if originally 800 scouts from Huqiu Mountain could assault a camp, nothing was impossible. That night, Chen Sansi was still focused on cultivation. It wasn't until dawn broke that he led 50-some riders, quietly leaving the city walls, heading straight for the nearest West Qi army camp. At the Guandu region, an expanse of flat lands stretched before them. The enemy and us used the hundreds of miles of Guandu plains as a boundary, each station behind the cities to the rear, but on the plains there were also some vanguard troops on the alert and out of importance. West Qi left a martial saint and a late-stage Qi refining 9th-layer cultivator within just the vanguard forces. Jin Yun, over 90 years old, was a loose cultivator carrying out the mission at Luoya Valley, with a young man next to him. Master, your tea. The young man brought a cup of tea, where the tea leaves swam like an azure dragon, radiating spirit light, and said with a cheeky grin, I won this in a bet with Mr. Li, drink without worries. His master was a tea aficionado, but in their hurried departure, they hadn't brought any tea leaves, and the mundane tea was too rough for his tastes. You little rascal, slick and sly all day, be careful or you'll end up suffering one day. Though Jin Yun scolded him with words, he couldn't hide the relief in his eyes. A cultivator from a declined family who fell to being a loose cultivator. He considered himself quite fortunate to have an heir to his Tao at the time of his imminent death. Kid. Jin Yun took a sip of tea, set down his cup, and earnestly advised. Once this battle is over, the Foundation Establishment pill will be at hand. When that happens, I will pretend to take it, fail at Foundation Establishment, and die. You must take the Foundation Establishment pill and flee thousands of miles away. Never show your face again, or the pill could instead bring you a fatal disaster. Master. The young man, unable to bear it, said, Otherwise, why don't you take the Foundation Establishment pill, Master? I'm still young. I can find a way to get another one in the future. I'm already 88 years old. On the surface, a Qi refining cultivator lives up to 120 years, but in reality, if one does not establish their foundation before 60, their Qi blood and meridians will decline, and hopes will grow dim with each passing year. Even if I take the Foundation Establishment pill, the chance to establish the foundation is at most a mere 1%. Let's not waste it. Jin Yun shook his head, speaking with a heavy heart. You must know, if it weren't for the emergence of the ancestor vein in the eastern continent, it would have been extremely difficult for us loose cultivators to obtain a foundation establishment pill, akin to climbing to heaven. You must seize this opportunity and not speak nonsense. Master, I understand. The young man's eyes reddened. He, originally a common man, had stumbled upon his master by chance and been set on the immortal path. While cultivators of the same realm were still fighting to the death over a few elixir pills, his master had already planned how to get him a foundation establishment pill. During the conversation between master and disciple, suddenly, a commotion arose outside. Jin Yun, the immortal master. This is bad. There's an enemy attack. Outside the vanguard camp, Marshal St. Chaizuan of West Qi mounted his horse and hastily arrived at the camp gates. What's going on? General Chai, there's an enemy raid. How many people? 50 people. 50? Are you sure they're not scouts? General Chai, they're charging towards the camp. What? Before Chai Zuiyuan could make arrangements, he saw a cloud of dust kicked up by galloping hooves more than a mile away, where the leader rode a horse and, donned in a white robe buffeted by the gale, held a pitch-black big bow. Chun Sansi. Whiz! The 50 men were still 600 to 700 steps away, yet an arrow had already been shot out, far exceeding the range of a common arrow. Chai Zuiyuan had long heard of his archery and dared not attempt to catch. Taking advantage of the distance, he leaped off his horse, his martial arts skills bursting forth to their limits. He turned into a streak of afterimage, dashing madly 100 or more steps to the left in an instant, then breathed a slight sigh of relief. However, when he stopped, he realized that sense of war intent was still following him, never having vanished. Looking back, he saw the arrow only 20 paces away, carrying rolling black evil. Amidst surging true chi, it spread its wings like a black phoenix thundering towards him, impossible to dodge. In great shock, General Chai drew his sword, bracing himself to block it. Boom! The soldiers nearby only heard a thunderous roar. Then they saw their general lying on the ground, bleeding from the 7 apertures and barely clinging to life. His face rapidly blackening in the presence of the evil chi and serpent poison, soon dying without a sound. Kill! At the same time, Chun Sansi led the 50 riders into the camp, beginning a frenzied onslaught. The vanguard camp plunged into chaos. Unrivaled! After Chun Sansi successively killed over 100 men, his weapon changed from the black snake bow to the Longdan bright silver spear. Amidst the slaughter of flesh and blood, his war intent piled up layer upon layer. The vanguard camp consisted of about 10,000 people. After slaying 700 to 800 from the enemy army, Chu Shixiang and the others began to set fires in all directions. The front half of the vanguard camp became engulfed in raging flames. At the same time, a late-stage Qi refining cultivator rode an immortal crane, holding a horsetail whisk. High in the sky, he appeared just like an immortal from legends. Chun Sansi? Naturally, Jin Yun recognized the man in the white robe. He stroked his beard with one hand and coldly said, "Without a cultivator by your side, you actually dare to come knocking. Well, good. Kill you and it all ends." Before his words fell, he had already begun sealing with both hands. The white crane beneath him let out a shrill cry, opened its beak to absorb the incoming mana, then astonishingly transformed the mana into strafes of golden sword chi blasts. Chapter 656 Decisive Victory _2. Chun Sansi neither dodged nor avoided. The silver dragon coiling around his body directly shattered all the sword chi, and then with a roar, it shot straight towards the heavens. The cold light aimed directly at the cultivator's face. Jin Yun gave a cold snort, the horsetail whisk in his hand suddenly enlarged, like a collapsing heavenly pillar bearing down, and collided fiercely with the ascending silver dragon, becoming locked in a stalemate. Mana and true chi collided, the aftermath visibly rippling through the air, distorting space itself. With aged hands, Jin Yun maintained the Dharma seal, continuously imbuing his magic artifact with mana, his face gradually revealing a look of surprise. A transcendent warrior, able to contend with this old man? Transcend mortality? Chun Sansi's voice boomed like a bell. Look again. What realm am I? Boom. Behold. With power surging beneath his white robe, his long spear suddenly burst into intense flames, and an unknown scarlet flame had also risen. Upon contact, Jin Yun's horsetail whisk began to burn uncontrollably. Being a wood attribute magic artifact, it was perfectly countered by the raging flames and turned to ashes after barely 2 breaths. Fearing the flames would spread to his arm, he had no choice but to throw it away hastily. Now seeing the white-robed figure entwined with flames, his pupils trembled. You are already a true power? As a magic cultivator, Jin Yun's understanding of martial arts was limited. He only knew that martial artists at the true power realm could utilize the power of the 5 elements through breathing skill. The appearance of the figure before him was clearly that of a true power warrior. There was also the possibility of some kind of fire-related spell. But prior to this, there had been no word of the white robe being a magic cultivator. In the midst of the battle, how could Jin Yun spare a moment to use his investigation skill? After the destruction of his life-bound magical artifact, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and made to escape atop his immortal crane. The opposing army supplies were about to run out, and they would soon collapse completely. By then, he could secure the Mang Mountain Ancestor Vein and complete the bounty task to obtain Foundation establishment resources. He could not afford to die here. Just now, after their exchange, Jinyun's life-bound magical artifact was damaged. But Chun Sansi also fell back to the ground from midair. Martial artists cannot fly. That was always a massive shortcoming for them. The white crane let out a cry as it flapped its wings, speeding towards the west. If it could just hold out a moment longer, it would meet the other Taoists coming to its aid. On the ground, White Robe pursued relentlessly on horseback. But in the end, one was in the air and the other on the ground. Until the spirit light shifted, the white horse neighed like a dragon's roar, and then in a blink, it leapt into the sky, reaching 100 feet in height. Borrowing strength from the white horse, Chun Sansi took off again, rising another 100 yards against the surging true chi, the long spear roaming the skies. Finally, he caught up to the white crane, the four symbols true chi flashing by in succession, eventually converging into one entity, forming the divine power sky dragon. Roar of thunder. The ad hoc defensive magic that the old cultivator Jinyun cast was shattered instantly like glass, a bloody hole exploding in his chest. The white crane beneath him, its life snuffed out under the assault of true chi, turned rigid as wood, and together with its master, plummeted straight to the ground. Only a few feathers drifted slowly in the air. Dead. Chun Sansi also began to fall, and mid-descent, he landed back on the horse, landing smoothly amidst the thunderous noise. Having opened 7 of the 8 scenic divine cave's apertures, his strength had long been verging on the true power realm. With the assistance of abnormal fire and the prowess of Unrivaled, killing a late-stage chi refining practitioner came much easier than before. Master! The young man, faced with the corpse of the elder, instantly had bloodshot eyes. However, before he could act, an arrow pierced through him, nailing him to the ground. Chun Sansi stepped forward and searched a storage bag out of Jinyun's corpse. Kill! In the chaos, Chu Shixiang and his men were on a rampage. Retreat! Chun Sansi, seeing figures fast approaching from the west against the sky, gave the order. Retreat? After a moment of hesitation, Chu Shixiang promptly complied. Out of more than 50 riders, only 4 had fallen in battle, and all the rest departed without issue. West Chi, in the central army tent, Immortal Master, trouble. Zhong Wuxin burst into the tent. 2 hours ago, Chun Sansi led a band of men to the vanguard camp and killed the vanguard general and that old Immortal Master. Loose cultivator Jin Yun. Han Xiang looked up and asked, a late-stage chi refining practitioner, how was he killed in such a short time? During the battle on the wild plains, Chun Sansi, with his transcendent realm, had slain 10,000 enemies without tiring and instead became more valiant as he fought, eventually killing the late-stage chi refining Sikong Chun. He was undeniably monstrous, but that required time. At that time, Sikong Chun suppressed White Robe for a long while. That was why Han Xiang had arranged for Jin Yun to be in the vanguard army. If Chun Sansi dared to come, they would only need to hold him off until other cultivators could arrive to surround and kill him. But this time, the killing was too easy? Could it be? I know not. Zhong Wuxin said, I only heard that during the battle Jin Yun mentioned something about a true power realm. When Chun Sansi attacked, he was also cloaked in flames. It's possible. He has reached the level above Martial Saint. Above Martial Saint. True power realm. So soon. Han Xiang, who had remained composed, now showed a serious expression upon hearing this. When Chun Sansi killed Sikong Chan that day, Han Xiang guessed that White Robe might have undergone breakthroughs during the process with Jingshan. He did not expect it to happen so quickly, which was utterly illogical. But this Chun Sansi had never been reasonable. This person has broken through to true power? Zhu Gui at Qi Refining Perfect Realm spoke. This person was still able to kill late-stage Qi refining practitioners at perfection of transcendence. Now that he has stepped into the true power realm, he will likely be tough to deal with in battle. Chapter 657 Decisive Victory _3. It doesn't matter. Han Xiang's eyes, previously filled with wariness, gradually cleared as he surveyed the chessboard. Taking cities and land isn't a one-man effort. Once the army collapses, even if he survives alone, he'll be powerless to turn the tide. We can take our time dealing with him then. Just a few more days. Zhong Wuxin said. Moreover, I heard that a couple of days ago, he publicly burned a secret letter from the supervising army that had communication with us, and chose not to investigate. Afterwards, he opened the granaries to feed his troops every meal, using this method to forcibly stabilize the soldiers' morale. The more he does this, the more it shows they are at the end of their tether. Today's attack on the vanguard camp is probably just a sign of his anxiety, wanting to quickly probe for our vulnerabilities. But we must not be careless. Han Xiang, playing with a chess piece, said darkly. I've dispatched troops to Wu City in secret, along with that martial cultivator in the true power realm, just in case. A few days later, Chun Sansi, who had been cultivating day and night, put down his long spear. On average, he could breach one Jingxin every 1 to 2 months. The last Jingxin was no exception. Even in the cultivation world, this pace would mark him as a supreme genius. But it still wasn't enough. Time was not on their side. Upon returning to the military camp, he saw Tong Xiaochu coming to report, "Sir, we'll run out of food and forage in at most 2 days. The good news is that Liao Feng is almost here." Immortal Master Wang Jun said he should arrive by tonight at the latest. That bastard. Tong Lu cursed from the side. He keeps postponing the agreed-upon date, putting on airs, I tell you. In the end, 2 days. Capital City. Longevity Palace. Behind the canopy, Emperor Longqing's prolonged and profound voice arose. "Haven't we won at Guandu yet?" "To answer your majesty." Yan Liang sighed. "We have done our utmost in supplying food and forage, but despite that, victory eludes us. The supplies will be exhausted in another 2 days at most." "Alas," Emperor Longqing lamented. "My great Shang dynasty has lost 150,000 loyal souls. After the war is over, I shall posthumously confer upon Chun Sansi the title of Duke Zhao, to be inherited by his descendants in perpetuity. If we can retrieve his body, we will bury him with the honors due to a king. Elder, I'll instruct the Ministry of Rites to make preparations immediately." Yan Liang respectfully responded. "Your Majesty need not be overly grieved. All we endure now is to bide our time and bear the burden of humiliation. Once your Majesty advances further on the immortal path, we no longer need to concern ourselves with the Li family or entities like Shenyun sect and Luoya Valley from looking down upon our great Shang dynasty." Zhongjua Hall. King Jin, Chao Huan, and numerous officials were there, engulfed in a deathly silence. Prince Zhan Nan's forces still can't reclaim the 3 prefectures. Minister of Revenue Tian Guang said despairingly. Calculating the time, the frontline supplies will be depleted in another 2 days. A 150,000 strong army. Gone. Do you realize how many silver taels that is? Minister of Personnel Lin Mingchun also sighed heavily. After this battle, our great Shang dynasty will lose 1/5 of its territories, and it will be difficult to restore the vitality of the West Territory within 20 years. Soldier Immortal Han Xiang. Han Xiang. The crowd gnashed their teeth. Who would have thought that even the man in the white robe would end up defeated utterly? Mr. Yan, Minister of War Ming Qingfeng suddenly spoke up. "Have you written to the generals at the 3 prefectures? Many of them are your Yan family's protégés." Yan Maoxing paused, then answered with assertion. "Of course, I wrote letters. But what's the use? This battle isn't just between 2 armies. It involves immortals who gave their men immortal pills. What could I do?" Ming Qingfeng, don't start on about protégés. Enough. At a time when the court is in jeopardy, do you really have the luxury to attack each other? King Jin, Chao Huan, roared in thunderous fury. "Instead of fighting here, better think about how to minimize the losses after the supervising army's defeat." "Your Highness, rest assured," Ming Qingfeng stated. "With the Central Plains Army and Prince Zhan there, they absolutely cannot enter the Central Plains from Jiazhou. They'll be stopped at the Heavenly Mountains. The court has plenty of time to recover, and we will surely have an opportunity to counterattack in the future." After saying this, he began to discuss future plans with the officials from the Ministry of War. "Sixth brother, may I have a moment?" Chao Ji approached him. "What is it that you can't say here?" After some hesitation, King Jin, Chao Huan, still led him behind the hall. "12th brother, do you have something urgent to discuss?" "Sixth brother," Chao Ji said solemnly. "Don't you think there's something odd about this whole affair?" "Odd?" Listening to the faint sounds of arguing resuming behind him, Chao Huan asked, "12th brother, are you also suspecting Elder Yan? How could that be possible?" "What's so impossible about that?" Chao Ji took out a sealed letter from his robe. "This is a clue discovered by my genie guard. Before the revolt in the 3 prefectures, the family of Du Shaochen from Wu County vanished, but they were not sent to West Qi. Instead, they were secretly brought to the capital city, and are now detained in an inconspicuous estate on its outskirts." "What?" Reading the handwriting, Chao Huan, boiling with rage, exclaimed, "If this is true, the Yan family deserves death by 1,000 cuts, to have their clan exterminated. But why? They hold such high offices, even I, the Prince Regent, have to consult his opinion when handling affairs of state, which can only be carried out after cabinet agreement. What more could they want? Why betray the country?" "Sixth brother, are you really that naive, or are you pretending to be?" Chao Ji said with a heavy tone. "Do you really think the Yan family has the audacity to do such a thing?" "You!" Staring into King Yan's eyes, as if seeing the answer within, Chao Huan nearly stumbled and fell, uttering with disbelief. "12th brother, we may be close, but there are things one must not speak lightly of." Chapter 658 Decisive Victory _4. "Sixth brother, do you still not understand?" Chao Ji said. "Why did the former crown prince have to fight to the death at Ziwei Mountain? Could it really have been just for the throne?" "Stop talking nonsense." Chao Huan hid the letter. "I believe it when you say the Yan family father and son are involved, but to say someone is pulling their strings behind the scenes, that I cannot accept." Fine. Chao Ji said. Even so, should we continue to let the Yen family father and son cause chaos and exceed their bounds? Absolutely not. Chao Huan made up his mind. 12th brother, continue gathering intelligence. When we have sufficient evidence, I will use all my power to topple the Yen family father and son. It's just a pity. The 150,000 soldiers of Great Shang Dynasty and that figure in the white robe are going to die in vain at Jiazhou. Jiazhou, Guandu, the last day when the food and fodder had run out. Supervisor. Tong Xiaochu rushed into the tent in a panic. He's here. Liao Fong is finally here, but he refuses to come in, insisting that you greet him outside the city gates dressed in a black robe. What? He's serious. Wang Ji was furious. Ignore him. Since he's come, he can't leave. Just capture him and torture him, and he'll spill everything. Enough. Chen Sansi stopped him. It wasn't anything significant after all. He stood up, grabbed a black robe to throw over his shoulders, and strode out of the tent. The city gate. Time is of the essence. Wang Jun looked at the man reeking of alcohol before him, as annoying as Chu Yunxiang. I've already agreed to your terms, why still waste time here? I said it. Chun himself must come out to meet me. Liao Fong, dressed in a brand new white robe, pointed to the soldiers on the city wall. I want them to see who is the real white robe. If Chun doesn't show up, or if he isn't wearing a black robe, don't expect to get any strategies to defeat the enemy from me. The flying sword by Wang Jun's side buzzed angrily. Unexpectedly, Liao Fong was not afraid. With bloodshot eyes, he yelled, You want to scare me with your broken sword? Come on. Kill me. Kill me so your 150,000 men can die together at Guandu. Do it. Wang Jun gritted his teeth and closed his eyes, saying no more. Finally, the city gates opened wide. Rows of troops came out first, lining up into 2 columns outside the gate. At last, it was the commander Chun Sansi, wearing a black robe over his white robe, who walked briskly out of the city gate. Seeing this, Liao Fong seemed somewhat surprised. He couldn't help feeling impressed in his heart. No wonder Chun Sansi became famous in just a few years. He could endure even this humiliation. Indeed, he was someone made for great things. Atop the city walls, the old brothers from Payong began cursing as they witnessed the scene. Among them, Zhu Tong said nothing and lifted his war hammer, intending to sneak down the city wall. Luckily, in the nick of time, Zhao Kong noticed and held him back forcibly. What are you trying to do? What are you doing? I'll kill him. Zhu Tong erupted with energy. Zhao Kong barely managed to restrain him. In the blink of an eye, it had been 4 years since they left Payong. 4 years, enough time for a person to grow and transform completely. Especially since 2 years ago, when Chun Sansi began to crazily feed them spiritual grain medicine ointment and various treasure medicines. Even the most hopeless realms continued to climb. Zhu Tong and Wang Li had both reached the Meridian Passage realm. You stop that. Zhao Kong, along with Feng Yong, pressed down on his head. You fool, we're relying on this man for intelligence right now. Whatever it is, we can talk about it later. It wasn't easy, but they finally managed to hold him down. Outside the city gates, Chun Sansi was the first to speak. Mr. Liao in white robe, I regret not being able to welcome you from afar due to military duties. Please forgive me. Heh, no worries at all. Liao Fong, with his hands clasped behind his back, lifted his chin and said, We, who command armies, surely wouldn't care about such a trifle. The banquet is ready. Chun Sansi gestured. Mr. Liao, please follow me to the feast. He personally led Liao Fong into the city, to a residence that served as the central army tent. The dishes were prepared from cattle acquired by slaughtering local garrison animals. Liao Fong was quite satisfied with the reception. He only drank a cup of wine and didn't touch the dishes, saying pensively, Brother Sancher, it must not have been easy to prepare such a feast, right? Indeed, Chun Sansi candidly said, There's not much grain left in the city. Not just not much. Liao Fong stated confidently, According to my calculations, you must have already run out. At most, you'll be out of food the day after tomorrow. Brother Liao truly has divine calculations. Chun Sansi went along with him. You. Liao Fong raised his eyebrow. Do you have a strategy to defeat the enemy? Mr. Liao must have a good plan. Chun Sansi said, Please share it with me. Outside, Zhao Kong felt somewhat nauseous listening to the conversation. Their lord had long known that the key issue was finding the enemy's city stockpiling grain, yet he still had to butter up the scoundrel with his words. It seems the illustrious supervisor Chun also has moments of oversight, huh? Liao Fong spoke proudly. Let me tell you, not only is dashing short on grain, the cheese provisions are also dwindling. Just burn their stores, and a 300,000-strong army can be crushed in a snap. I'll ask you again, do you know where Han Xiang has stockpiled the grain? You don't know? Let me tell you then. Slap. His right hand fell heavily on the map. Wu City. Not long ago, Da Qi just forcibly levied a batch of grain. To facilitate transportation and mobilization, they stockpiled it all in Wu City. Just take down Wu City. and that fellow Han Xiang will crumble like a toppled mountain. So it is. Chun Sansi nodded his head. Just as he predicted. Wu City was the perfect place for stockpiling grain. Chapter 659 Decisive Victory _5. Of course, the confirmation of this person is equally important. However, within Wu City, there seems to be an immortal master above Martial Saint, and more than 20,000 defending troops, and the city defenses are quite formidable. Liao Feng took out a piece of letter paper. I have written down all the combat strengths inside. Whether it can be taken or not, that's up to you. With all the information finally confirmed, Chun Sansi took the letter paper, ready to stand up and leave. Wait a minute, Liao Feng said somewhat nervously. Mr. Chun is known for his benevolence and righteousness across the world. Surely you wouldn't do something as despicable as to kill the donkey once the grinding's done, right? Rest assured, after the success of our plan, I will report to the court that you are the primary contributor. Within 5 years, the title of State Duke is yours. The court won't be stingy. In short, Chun Sansi paused. As long as Mr. Liao does not violate military discipline, I will make good on the promises made to you. He did not waste any more time and quickly left. Hiss. After drinking a cup of wine, Liao Feng clicked his tongue and said, if this plan succeeds, I, Liao Feng, will be renowned across the world. Within the military camp, Chun Sansi ordered all the food to be consumed, and also slaughtered some of the remaining cattle and sheep from the local garrison, allowing 150,000 soldiers to eat and drink their fill. Then he began making the final arrangements. The defense strength of Wu City was not weak, and it would require a detour to get there, with no possibility of deploying the entire army at once. After careful consideration, Chun Sansi appointed his officers. Tong Xiaochu, heed my command. You, leading 2 cultivators and 10,000 soldiers, create a feint attack on Lu Mansion. When Han Xiang leads his troops to attack our main base in Gangyang Prefecture, turn around and launch a pincer attack from both fronts. Drawing attention was necessary. Your subordinate obeys the command. Tang Lu, heed my command. You, leading 2 cultivators and 20,000 soldiers, lay an ambush in the canyons 80 li outside the city, blocking the enemy to the last man. Retreat shall only be permitted when you see the fires rise in Wu City. Your subordinate complies. Wang Ji, Chu Shixiang, Wei Xian, Song Guizhi. Chun Sansi's voice rang out clearly. Follow me. Leading the soldiers of Hengza camp, and select 7,000 elite troops from the supervisory army to attack Wu City with me. Yes. Good. Your command will be obeyed. Wang Jun, Chu Yuanxiang, heed my command. You will stay behind with 100,000 troops to defend Gangyang Prefecture. Wait. Wang Jun said, puzzled. Do you mean we too do not need to attack? Inside Wu City there's a martial artist in the true power realm, and you are still at transcend mortality. He had heard a few days ago. Chun Sansi led his troops out for a slaughter, claiming to be in the true power realm. But it was all a bluff. Yes, Mr. Chun. Chu Yuanxiang, who had recently returned from the capital city, spoke disdainfully. Aren't you afraid of Han Xiang coming after you himself? A chi refining perfection and a true power. It will be no issue to kill you. He will come after me. Chun Sansi said indifferently. But you don't need to worry about my life or death. Just do as I say and hold Gangyang Prefecture. This concerns your own sect's mission. Even if the granaries of Wu City were burned down, it didn't mean the West Qi army would immediately collapse. If at that time Han Xiang and his forces attacked and seized Gangyang Prefecture, annihilating the main forces, the situation would still be bad for Dashing and good for West Qi. Therefore, defending the city in this battle was extremely crucial. Arrogant. Chu Yuanxiang didn't protest but merely said, anyway, once you're dead, I'll just run away. Brother Chun, rest assured. Wang Jun assured, no matter what, I will hold the city. His status in the sect was neither high nor low, hoping to obtain a foundation establishment pill. He feared that this might be his only chance in life. How could he not gamble with his life? You have my thanks. Chun Sansi cupped his fists and stepped onto the battlefield. In the night, beneath the flare of torches, his white robe and silver spear were extraordinarily striking. His voice boomed like thunder, resounding across the heavens. 15 days ago, I told you all, that within 15 days, the battle would be decided. Now, I shall fulfill my promise. Tonight, all we need is to take down one small Wu city. The West Qi army of 300,000 will be obliterated. This will be an unprecedented feat of a century. You all, would you follow me to achieve great accomplishments? To slay the Qi bandits? We are willing to follow. The soldiers shouted in unison. To achieve great accomplishments. To slay the Qi bandits. Kill. Kill. The cry to kill shook the heavens. Boom. The gates of Gangyang Prefecture City opened wide. The Hengza camp, along with 7,000 elite supervising forces, totaling 22,000 strong, poured into the boundless darkness. The West Qi army. In the martial arts arena on the high platform, Han Xiang stood under the torchlight, scrutinizing the chessboard before him. Cultivators like Zhu Gui and Zhong Wuxin were gathering forces beneath, arranging the upcoming troop deployments. According to their calculations, Daxing's provisions had been exhausted. Next, they only needed the army to press forward, encircle them for several tens of days, and with some luck, they might just need 20 days. The 150,000 supervising forces would voluntarily surrender. Han! Just then, a cultivator flew in on a sword. There's something I need to tell you. That Liao Feng, who was in charge of accounting for the provision ledgers, fled on horseback at 5 a.m. and has since vanished without a trace. No one knows where he went. What did you say? Han Xiang's hand, which was about to place a piece, froze midair. Did you bully him, by any chance? He caused trouble because he drank too much, the cultivator explained. And he would often insult us behind our backs, so I just scared him a bit. Fool! Han Xiang stood up abruptly, bellowing. Having humiliated him, why didn't you kill him? Why leave such a future problem? By now, he must have defected to Chunsansi and told the enemy that our army's provisions are stored in Wu City. Upon hearing this, Chapter 660 Decisive Victory _6. Zhong Wuxin, Gong Yu, as well as many generals and cultivators, were all taken by surprise. What should we do now? Facing a formidable enemy, Gong Yu said, just as we were about to declare victory, could it be that we're going to fail at this critical moment? Han Xiang, although infuriated by the complications brought about by his fellow sect members, did not panic. He calmly looked at the chessboard in front of him, alternating between placing black and white pieces rapidly, mapping out the current situation. He spoke. If they intend to reach Wu City without being detected by the defending armies along the way, their number will not exceed 25,000, and in reality it will only be less. We have two ways to place our next move. First, immediately lead the main force to Wu City, but given the tight timeline, at most only 50,000 can arrive in time. Second, while their main battle force is attacking Wu City, our entire army can strike Gangyang Prefecture. Brother Han, we must not go to Wu City. Zhu Gui emphasized that Chunsansi, even in the Transcendence realm, is capable of slaying 10,000 without exhaustion, and taking down cultivators in the late stage of qi refining with ease. Plus, he's sure to bring cultivators who have achieved qi refining perfection from the Shengyun sect with him. Our 50,000 troops might not be guaranteed victory. I think we should attack Gangyang Prefecture. Their main force is still within the city. Once the city falls and not a single one is left, this war will immediately come to an end. No need to wait for another month. We will be able to return to the sect and report our success. He paused, leaning toward the military immortal, and whispered, Brother Han, don't forget one more thing. Attacking Gangyang Prefecture will at most cost the lives of some mortal chess pieces. But going head-to-head with Chunsansi puts both you and me at risk of dying. After all, for most of them, the purpose of coming to this world was the pursuit of longevity, not to fight and gamble with their lives. Send the order. The image of the white-robed figure slaying enemies in the wilderness reverberated in Han Xiang's mind. He finally made up his mind, resolutely placing a piece, his voice booming like a bell. All troops strike, directly towards Gangyang Prefecture. In the wilderness, Chunsansi led the Hongzhe camp rapidly forward. Wei Xian followed by his side. Brother Chun, are we really sure we don't need a cultivator of qi refining perfection? There are true power warriors in Wu City, and the difference between true qi and true power is like heaven and earth. In fact, Chunsansi was just one step away from uncovering the 8th Jingshin at the upper part of his body. But he could wait no longer. Liao Feng feared death, yet wanted to save face. Thus, he insisted on being brought to Daxing's side before he was willing to divulge any information. Once Liao Feng disappeared, Han Xiang would quickly become aware. There was no more time for cultivation. But battle itself is cultivation, and moreover, it is the best, most effective form of cultivation. Brother Chun, Song Guizhi also curiously said, and why are you so certain that Han Xiang will choose to attack Gangyang Prefecture first, instead of coming to aid Wu City? On one hand, the number of troops that can make it to Wu City in time is insufficient. On the other hand, Chunsansi spoke in a deep voice. I will tell him personally so he dies understanding. In the midst of conversation, they arrived at their destination. In the cover of night, a not-so-large but sturdy city loomed before them, like a giant beast blocking the way. Chunsansi pulled rein and halted. The army stopped as well. He took out storage bags collected from cultivators, extracting from them one siege engine after another. Storage bags filled with provisions were not enough to last a force of over 100,000 for many days. But they were adequate for housing some equipment. Ever since joining the army, Chunsansi's battles had mostly relied on surprise attacks with cavalry to achieve victory. But this time, a siege was needed. He ordered all soldiers to dismount and hand over their horses to General Chen Sun. Brothers, right in front of us. I will lead as the vanguard, to open the path for you. Take the city. Smash through West Qi. The 22,000 soldiers shouted in unison. Smash through West Qi. Smash through West Qi. Charge. Chunsansi took out the Shenju. Ever since, After the battle at Langjutsu Mountain, the mystical energy had surged and continued to grow rapidly while stationed in Ganyang Prefecture. He confirmed that the source of mystical energy had nothing to do with winning battles but was related to something akin to people's support. In any case, the mystical energy accumulated within it was enough to support 22,000 men in deploying the Heavenly Book Array once. After the army's overnight forced march. At this moment, it was 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. The night was quietly fading. The sky in the east began to show a hint of pale dawn. Morning light poured out like flowing water. The mist appeared and disappeared within the golden glow, and everything in the world seemed peaceful and tranquil. Until the murderous aura ascended to the heavens, making the newly illuminated sky somewhat turbid and heavy. All troops, form up. Clang! Chan Sansi drew the Jinyue sword from his waist, pointing it towards the rising sun. His voice reverberating through the mountains and rivers, his killing intent soaring to the skies. Chenkuin Turf River, Earth Dragon Formation. The formations from the Heavenly Book had long been incorporated into the daily drills of the Shang army. Let alone the Hongzhe camp. Even the 7,000 accompanying standard bearers were immensely familiar with them. Under the guidance of the array flags, the 22,000 quickly completed the formation, each taking their place, subtly merging with the natural order and pulling at the wild lands of the western region. The mystical energy from the Shenju surged out, bolstering the formation above. In an instant, the 22,000 soldiers felt as though they became one with the earth, capable of controlling the earth dragon. Hongzhe camp. Charge. Siege.